Good evening, folks. Welcome to the September 19th, 2023 meeting of the Northfield Select Board. This meeting will be called to order at this time. First up on our agenda, we have a 6 p.m. schedule appointment for the Assistant Treasurer / Collector appointment. Please come forward.
Yay!
So, you seek interest as a Assistant Treasurer / Collector.
Yes,
All right.
definitely.
Would you like to head us
Anne, by
off?
the way.
I am.
You want
Anne P-Train, I don't know,
to introduce her?
I
Or?
think we were gonna let B or you introduce her. No?
Oh, no, you introduce her, and then I'll speak to my participation on the committee, yeah.
So I'm excited that Anne applied for the position and she rose to the top. I work with Anne in Irving as well, so I'm very happy to have her on the team here in Northfield. I'm excited.
We work very well together.
Mm-hmm.
So she's an experienced collector. Maybe in the future, a little few crossover training for treasurer might be something new and of interest to give Anne a little bit something new. But right now she's uses Vadar and can step certainly right into the use of the system we have, learning a little bit about Northfield first. But so that was really a strength in her resume.
Well, we had two very good candidates, but Anne is head and shoulders above other candidates because it's like a dozen years of experience.
Yeah, I'm in my 12th year at Irving.
Right, of doing exactly what we need done. And for Northfield, this is a new position. So it would behoove us to have somebody with your experience in a similar sized town, but with different, as we discussed in the process, that Irving is in fact a little different from Northfield. But I think the committee was unanimous in terms of taking advantage of all of Anne's experience.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was a strong feeling that she'd really hit the ground running. And that was
Right.
would be very helpful heading into a busy time of the year for Michelle.
And I think we're just
Because
excited.
collecting is coming up. Yeah, we
Right.
were.
I think we're just excited to, as a team, put this position in place, which I think is a really good thing for Northfield.
Right, because then that allows you to focus more on the treasurer duties, which, for example, are where like town investments, that's your responsibility. So the
Right.
more we can have somebody totally focused on collections during those busy times, the better off we are in terms of your other treasurer responsibilities. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
Any other questions from the board?
So there's not going to be any problem doing 2 part-time jobs? The schedule's going to work out well?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're both part-time, small.
Right. No, I only work 10 hours in Irving, so
And that's about what they're going to have you work here, so.
yes.
Mhm.
Okay, great. That's it. That's it for me.
Yeah, plus she demonstrated she's super organized.
Yep.
And both of them are, so.
All right, do we have a graded step for the appointment? Take a look at that
Yeah.
quickly.
Yep.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we offer the position of Assistant Treasurer Collector to the Finance Department for Anne, is it Petrain or P-Train?
P-Train.
P-Train, at the rate of $24.15 an hour, grade 6, step 6.
Second.
A motion from B and a second from Heath. Further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
An enthusiastic aye.
Welcome to the town of Northfield, and thank you.
Thank you. I'm excited to get going.
Yeah, looking forward to what you're going to be offering.
See you tomorrow.
Great.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good, thank you. All right, we'll just get started with our 610 special event permit, Great River Challenge. Okay, so Great River Challenge. Do tell.
This is going to be our 8th year of doing it. We do a paddle, and then we do a run, and then we do a bike. It's down at the First Light Northfield Mountain Recreation Center.
And just for the record, your name is?
Ed Hoffmeister.
Oh, okay.
I started it with Dave Thomas 8 years ago.
So we have a police detail is requested, 4 hours, time donated by Northfield something Pulaski, Pula. I don't know what that means.
Where you're at, what number are you at?
Where are you
Oh,
at?
you're filling off.
We donate to them every year
Okay.
at the end.
So I see that there's only one condition noted from the Board of Health that portable toilets will be at the event plus wash stations. Is this something that will be doable?
We've always done portable, yeah.
Okay.
But we can. They normally have one bathroom open too.
Yeah. Insurance paperwork all squared away? Any questions from the board? Having been here for a few years now, I recall seeing this request every year, and I believe the operation is always run very well and really efficiently, and there always seems to be a good turnout, so I think it's pretty well squared away at this point.
You didn't have any injuries or issues last year, did you?
No.
No. Which is amazing given the fact that you're going in and out of the river too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because this is a charitable organization, are we
Oh, that's right.
paying a fee?
Yeah.
Whoever makes the motion, we can have that factored in.
Yeah.
I will make a motion to approve the Great River Challenge for October 7th, 2023, and waive the entry fee.
Second.
We're gonna waive the permit.
Permit.
Right.
Oh, sorry. I was reading the entry fee right there. The permit.
It's like, no, we can't do wait.
Okay, we had a motion and the second was from Bernie. Discussion. Yes, just stating once again that the Board of Health recommends portable toilets and at the event plus a washing station. So, and that's all I have to say on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, unanimous passing. You're all set to go.
Thank you.
Looking forward to another year.
Yeah.
Thanks
The
a lot.
weather's great.
Was somebody going to be here from the 4-Star? No, probably not. 4-Star Farm.
Yeah.
It's just a little early, it's probably about 5 minutes early.
Okay, that's fine. We'll entertain any citizens' concerns at this time, if there are citizens' concerns at this time.
I have something to say. Do you want me to sit up there? Can I do it from here?
I prefer if you go up front,
Okay.
but just make sure that you speak as a citizen and not as a select board
Oh, yeah.
member.
I'm just going to make a statement and
Oh, yeah,
that's
watch
it.
your
We're not going to
microphone.
discuss it. Okay?
Goodness.
Okay, speaking as a citizen, Bernie Boudreau, Old Wendell Road, Northfield. There's been a lot of misconceptions about the sewer department. First of all, it is a town department staffed by town employees, supported by a sewer commission that is elected by the town. It is not a private entity, and on the town's website should be listed under departments, which it isn't at the present. I want to mention the consent order issued by the DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, is against the town of Northfield, not the sewer commission, the chief operator, or the treatment plant directly. The consent order on page 2 lists the town of Northfield as the respondent, and in section 2, statements of facts and law, I quote, respondent owns and operates a publicly owned treatment works as defined at 314 CMR 12, it's a Massachusetts statute, consisting of sewers, pipes, and conveyances used to transport wastewater to its wastewater treatment plant within its municipal limits. I think people deserve to be given a straight and honest answers about the consent order and the impending asset management plan and its impact on Northfield. There will be 2 asset management plans, one for the collection system and one for the plant. The consent order for the is on the website under the Board of Sewer Commissioners if you want to see it. Once we get the asset management plan, part 1, we will need to get it on the select board agenda so that we can dive into who's responsible for what and get into the details of this once we have a plan in front of us. Thank you.
You just spoke as a, never mind.
What's that?
It's,
It's important to remember not to speak as an elected official when doing citizens' concerns. Anything else at this time? Okay, seeing nothing, we will, at
payroll
6:15.
warrant?
Yeah, we'll do the payroll warrant. Take a motion for that.
sure. I move that we approve the September 20th, 23 payroll warrant of $81,455.77.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on this?
No, I just noted a lot of highway and police. I don't know where it's over there. I noticed quite a few, it seemed like overtime in different departments is what I was imagining. Because it's a little higher than it normally is. Just noting for the record, nothing.
Okay, any more discussion on that?
Nope.
Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Oh, vendor warrant. I move that we approve the September 20th, 2023 vendor warrant of $188,311.98, which includes the absolutely gorgeous town hall parking lot drainage redo and highway truck from FY24. That was an article? Yeah.
Yes.
From the town meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstain.
With one abstain from Sarah. Review and approval of the minutes for the 9/5/23 meeting.
Okay.
Board.
So moved.
Second?
Wait.
Oh, what did you say?
Bernie made a motion and then you seconded it
Yeah,
on the
that's what I-
9/5 minutes.
Or, I'm sorry, for what?
9/5.
9/5.
9/5/23 minutes.
Sarah submitted quite a few changes that she wants on there.
Okay, so we're in further discussion.
That's for the 5/16 minutes though.
No.
Oh.
Oh, she has
Oh,
some.
for-
Oh,
For
okay.
the 2, yeah.
Okay.
So the citizens' concerns paragraph, and then under review, I just went and looked at the videos, and under review and approval of the warrants, there's a section discussion. Kearns asked about additional time to review. That wasn't there. At the end, I asked for it to be an agenda item, but it wasn't about 4 o'clock. It was about earlier because I can't make it in these 2 hours to review it. So I'd like a chance to review it. So that's on the agenda. So I'm just asking that be removed under review and approval of the warrants. Where it's after discussion, I'm asking for that to be removed.
Why is it being removed?
Because it's incorrect. It wasn't.
You did.
We didn't discuss it at review, and we didn't. And what I asked was, I asked for it to be added as an agenda item that we would have more time to, and that's, I guess, the last one. Please add earlier vendor warrant availability.
Is there any way we can get these earlier?
Yeah, this is
Really, should we have it earlier, like we should have the warrant earlier?
No,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
asking about your,
absolutely.
just straight,
Right.
straight question here. Because I mentioned at the last meeting, it'd be nice to have, if there's going to be this many changes, it's nice to have them along with the lengthy package that we already had. So I'm trying to, I don't have any way of going back right now and reviewing
I hear
what
you.
you just mentioned. So
I agree.
for either
So
this
you
or
wanna
for,
push it until you have a chance to review it?
I think the September 5th minutes are fine, but it's open to discussion. I'm just commenting on the, be nice to have these earlier. There's a lot.
Yeah, this is a lot to take in right now,
Yeah.
just given the nature of what we have to do at our meeting tonight, so.
So do we table the vote for the minutes? Just do it next time.
I'll second that.
I mean, we already have a motion and a second. on the
Yeah, we already have a
floor.
motion and a second on the floor right now,
Yeah.
so we need to, on the approval of the minutes. So if we just say no at this time, then the minutes will not be approved, and then we can re-motion to just have it tabled at a future time.
Can Bernie just withdraw his, because we're not actually voting on the minutes, so can Bernie just withdraw his motion?
Do you want to withdraw your motion?
Oh,
Motion to
yeah,
approve.
I can I'll withdraw my motion.
Yeah, I think that would be the cleanest way to do it, and
Okay.
that way we're
Yes.
not having to vote against
Yeah.
something
I
that.
withdraw the motion
Yeah,
Yeah.
to approve the minutes of 9/5/2023.
Okay, the motion's been withdrawn.
You have the second?
I'm withdrawing my second,
Okay.
yeah.
And on the other motion, the other minutes, those were actually, I guess they were said to be May 16th. I just said to replace the ones that had been removed. It was actually 13 June. I went and found them, and those are there.
Oh,
That's
so
the
it's-
one paragraph up at top. Yeah, I mean, I was never the one that said May 16th. I just said to restore the ones that had been removed.
So we're all set on the second one?
The,
No,
right at the
she's-
top, requesting amendments of 13 June 2023. Yeah,
Different set of minutes than what I thought it was.
Oh,
it's just adding in the citizens' concerns that was removed.
And the timestamp is around 40 minutes on the video for June 13th?
Correct.
Okay.
Just to clarify, nothing was ever removed. You just
Yeah.
felt it wasn't included. Sandra doesn't,
It wasn't,
Removed.
well, it wasn't included, and when I
Right.
asked Sandra why it wasn't included, she said that because you had told her that we could not have citizens' concerns,
no, no, no,
that
no,
it
no,
was
no,
not
no,
included.
no, 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 no,
No,
no.
no,
That
no,
conversation never happened between us, and I'm sure she didn't say that to you. I've never told her anything about editing minutes. Flat out say that right now. That never happened.
I gave
And
a
that
citizen's
conversation
concern.
between, I
gave
never
a citi-
instructed
I gave a
her.
citizen's concern, and it wasn't included under citizens' concern.
That's
So I'm
fine, but it wasn't
requesting for it to be
removed.
included. Well,
That's all I'm saying.
I asked why it hadn't been included,
Okay.
and I was told that it wasn't included
So,
because
yeah.
because it was said that we are not allowed to have citizens' concerns.
So, yeah, so here's what I think the disconnect is. So Sandra types up the minutes as best as she can, reviewing the video. And then it's, when we review it, if I have concerns, for example, I just email them in and then I bring them up at the select board. But it's actually the select board's responsibility to amend or suggest edits. So you can, I can say it to Sandra and give her a heads up, but she cannot based on just my individual input, which I've done in the past, she can say, that's great, I'll hand it out at the meeting, or I'll include it in with the homework package, whatever. But once she's typed it up
And sent it out.
and sent it out to us as a public body, she has no authority to make any edits at that point. It has to be in this meeting, and it has to be brought by a select board member.
Right.
So I just want to clarify that.
Yes, that's.
Yeah, so she's not removing anything. She types it up as best as she can, and then, which normally is excellent and satisfactory, so. Okay, so are we pushing these off just to keep things rolling? Because we've got a couple of really big things.
I don't have the time right now to devote the necessary brain power to
So
this
we're
with
gonna
what we have to
review
do tonight. So
these.
let's just
Sounds good.
review them.
For the next
Review
meeting.
them for the next
Okay, so
meeting.
that's the action.
And hopefully
item.
there's no more amendments that have to happen before then,
Okay,
so that we don't have to waste 45 minutes amending meeting minutes. So,
okay. All right, so that goes in the that's already in the homework package. for
all right,
next.
so we'll take the 620 request from the brewery at Four Star Farms for 2 temporary one-day liquor licenses. Yes.
I think I've seen you more like in the last, because we were just at the Chamber of Commerce thing too.
Every once in a while, they let me out of the brewery. Say hi.
I know, I'm surprised.
That's good.
Okay.
So we'll handle the September 23rd one first.
So it's a cyclocross race at Northfield Mountain from 10 to 3. We're just going to be serving beer, selling it to participants and of age attendees.
Nothing like having a beer after you've cycled through the whole
Oh.
mountain.
Yeah. I'm happy they reached out to a local brewery. I thought that was
Yeah.
nice of them. So I think
Excellent.
the organizer's out of Boston, but it seems like a nice guy. I haven't actually met him, but I imagine he's talked to you guys since he's got to have a plan in place for something like that.
Okay, so we're just, this is for the liquor license, right? Sorry, because we just have a lot of paperwork, so.
Oh, sure.
Yes, the temporary one day.
Is it in here?
It's on the green sheet. Oh, you mean the actual license? Yes, it'll
Yeah.
be in there for signature.
Okay.
Might be the next one.
Oh, yeah, here it is.
Is it a 2-day event? Is that the?
Just one day. So there's 2 separate license applications.
Okay.
This one is for the 23rd, this coming Saturday, and then the other one is for October 7th, which
Okay.
is the Great River Challenge off-road triathlon.
That he just came in for, but this is the liquor license, sorry, okay,
Yeah.
clarify. Thank you.
Yeah, this is just so
Like
that
I said,
we
there's a
can-
lot of paperwork.
Sorry, no
Yeah.
problem. Yeah, so this is just for a one-day license for me to go and pour beer at the event itself.
Okay. All right.
You want to entertain it?
Yeah,
Or
let's
do like a
entertain the
so
motion.
moved?
Yeah.
Okay. How have you done these in the past, Alex? I move that we approve a one-day temporary liquor license to the brewery at Four Star Farms to serve beer on September 23rd, 2023 from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at 99 Millers Falls Road for the cyclocross race.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Okay.
Excellent.
Next one, I move that we approve a one-day temporary liquor license for the brewery at Four Star Farms to serve beer on October 7th, 2023 from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at 99 Millers Falls Road for the Great River Challenge.
Second.
Okay, a second from Sarah. Any discussion on that?
I just had a question. On the second one, it says there will not be a cash bar and there is not a donation required.
Correct. So with the Great River Challenge, there's a beer included with the participants.
Oh, the entry fee?
Yeah, it's sort of part of participants package, I guess you'd call it.
Their merch. Yeah.
Yes, but
Yeah.
you know, they get like a wristband showing
Yep.
that they're 21 plus, and
Yeah.
then they're able to have a beer at the end of their
They can have a glass
3-stage
too.
race.
Yeah.
Nice.
We did this last year as
Yep.
well.
Yeah.
And
I
I think
remember.
the year before that too. I mean, if you want to kayak on the river in the early October and run on a trail for a while and then mountain bike for a while,
And then have beer.
you've earned your beer. But yeah.
Okay. Any more discussion on this?
Oh, I guess actually that's a good point. There is an entrance fee if you think about, like, if you're considering the fee associated with entering the bike race,
Yeah.
but there
Yeah.
isn't an entry fee to come in to have a beer, if that
To
makes
you,
sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That might have just been a misreading on my part of that particular line.
No big deal. We'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Fantastic.
Both of your temporary liquor licenses have been approved.
All right. Thank you very much.
We should be all set.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're gonna sign those.
Yes.
Yeah.
I got them.
That's okay. I'll get it to you.
Thank you.
So 6:30. We may not be able to at this point
Yeah,
in
but
time.
I don't know if Mark wanted to come up, we can do at least a speak
Yeah.
to a little bit.
Let's get
The
Mark's feedback.
person who was coming out from the east sent me a charming video of a trailer breaking off a piece of metal and it going under his car, and now he's being towed on Route 2. So
Bummer.
we're going to probably reschedule him to come in. You do have in your packet a copy of the actual presentation he's
Oh.
going to make. So I'm not going to go through it. It's his presentation. But if we're going to do this at the next meeting, you may want to bring it again and just put that in your, or give it back to me. I'm happy to put it in the file here and make sure it comes back to you, but we don't really necessarily want to print it again. Also, you have a copy in your homework. You got the draft report. However, there were some slight changes, and I'm bringing hard copies for you. I do have them electronically, so I will resubmit. There's just some numbers. It doesn't change any of the conclusions that he has, but Mark caught a few things, and you can certainly speak to it, that changed some of the numbers a little. I don't think it was dramatic, but it was enough that he wanted you to have the correct figures. So we'll send that back out to you as well. But I didn't know if you wanted to speak a little bit about.
Well, I mean,
What's coming?
it wasn't my intention to be here tonight to influence or interject myself into the presentation. I was here as your topic expert to be here to answer any questions that you might have. But I am glad that we're hopefully coming to the end of this study. It's been a long time coming. And again, I didn't want to influence or involve myself in the discussions because there's some stuff in here that I think, you know, the select board really needs to absorb and make their own conclusions about.
I do know that if you go to the very last slide, and this is maybe for something to think about as we're going forward, talking about the next steps, getting your questions and comments. It's still a draft report. They wanted to get anything that you felt was missing or needed to be further explained to turn it into the final report, but it's pretty straight, pretty final format, but obviously looking at that. But then larger discussion with the member towns for formal advisory committee or a task force based on this data. And of course, Mark may have some feelings about that, want to speak to it after the presentation. Certainly the select board may have some feelings about that as well. But I think, did you look to see, I think the numbers that you want to use are actually in the, I would go with the PowerPoint for now. I will resend.
Is the PowerPoint corrected?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
PowerPoint's up to date.
For the most part, some of the things that I have found, they have made corrections on. There is one slide in here that I still believe needs some adjustments in talking with the consultant.
Okay. Which one is that?
regarding the percentages of what our insurance basis is. They made some an assumption based off a spreadsheet that I sent them, which I think is incorrect, and that when I pointed it out to them, it was a little too late after it had already been sent to you. So.
Which page is this?
I'm not sure what page it is. This is revenue trends. payee type.
From the Comstar collections?
Yeah, this one here.
Oh, good, okay.
Because as much as we are getting closer to this number, the majority of our patients are not really Medicaid. 87% is not Medicaid, Medicare. So the number is different than that.
But that's one thing to look at. It doesn't necessarily change the cost of operating the
Correct.
department or
Correct.
probably what they would recommend as conclusions. But we do want to get, obviously all the numbers nailed down as close as possible. So we will send you the report again, but this, I think, has, I would look at the PowerPoint to, for the basic information, the basis of the tables and charts
But
and numbers. for your
again, just to
discussion.
clarify, I wish you put page numbers on here. Darn it.
Yeah, probably because it was a
hard to-
PowerPoint. We didn't.
Yeah. So it's the revenue trends Comstar collections page, or it's a different revenue trend
No, it says
page?
at the bottom, note this is still being reviewed with an asterisk.
Oh.
It's 1, 2.
Oh, got it. This one.
So the revenue
The back
trend.
of the
Yeah, got
sheet.
it. Okay.
Right
thanks.
here, the one that has the big note on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that one. This is still being reviewed.
Where it says, note.
Gotcha.
So anyway, certainly the PowerPoint is a nice, it encapsulates the report so you can see the charts, if nothing else, to get a sense of what's going on in the report. And obviously there's more explanation in the
Yeah.
report, there's more narrative, how they got here, what they looked at, what they're recommending. But we do want to have them come and obviously present
Yeah.
the presentation, go through the
Yeah.
narrative, explain what their methodology was, how this all played out.
Got
But
it.
again, when we
Is
go
there-
to that last page, there's going to have to be some decisions on moving forward.
Right. But can I ask, while Mark's here, because I know he's quite the data hound, can I ask him a data question?
Sure.
Okay, so Comstar is the one that does your collections.
Correct.
So I'm looking at the revenue trends Comstar collections, because I was a little confused by how to. So
It's like page 6 or something.
Okay.
okay, so I guess I was confused, and maybe this is more a question for them, but maybe you have some insight. So it has towns like Northfield, Bernardston, Irving, Gill, Montague, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we get into, I'm not understanding the comparison with Northampton, Shelburne, Ludlow, Boston, Conway, Charlemont.
This is collected revenue.
It's money that's
So-
actually collected.
So those are the communities in which a billable transport initiated in.
Oh, okay.
So when you see Boston, you go, wait, you guys went to Boston? Yeah, we did. We took a transfer down to
Okay,
Boston.
that's you, that's not,
Yeah.
okay, that's your, okay.
And we've
got
been
it.
to Conway.
That's what
we-
I needed.
We've been to Charlemont. We've
Okay.
been to Shelburne. We've
Okay,
been
got
to all
it.
these places. Yeah. Again,
Okay,
that's
when
over
I
the
first
course.
looked at it, now it totally makes sense, totally easy. But when I first looked at it, I'm like, I was somehow thinking they were giving us background on other towns, and it's really your interaction with those towns.
This is 100% of
Got it.
billable runs that we, from the community in which they were initiated from.
Okay, great. Wow.
And may I ask a question about that same Comstar collections page? The 4 stars, these are the 4 towns that we're talking about regionalizing together?
So these are the 4 towns that we are currently the primary ambulance provider for today.
Got it.
So when we talk about regionalization, I mean, the reality is we sort of already are. I mean, we have individual agreements with these communities already today. But the question is do we want to go to a more formalized inter-municipal agreement to formalize, again, the structure going forward, talking about what the potential assessments would be based off of these findings, as well as giving these communities some sort of influence into the operations of the organization. The question is does this board want to give up some of that authority to allow for a more, let's call it robust ambulance service where it's more sustainable in the future instead of having one community solely responsible and then just selling it to the other communities. And I think that's what purpose of this study was,
Yeah.
to get this conversation started.
That's a good way to describe it.
And also, what is the method? What are some of the methodologies to determine what's a fair compensation?
Correct.
We've kind of picked numbers because we wanted to have an agreement signed, and we picked numbers to have them have a buy-in. but what does that buy-in look like going forward? And then if they're gonna have a buy-in, and we're talking about a buy-in operationally and potentially capital buy-in, then we have to say, what do we give in return? And part of that return is they have some part of the process, some part of the say in the operation. You can't ask them for, you know, a total financial piece necessarily and then say, but you have nothing to say with how we run things. Because now they're actually bought into some kind of structure. Where we make promises and they make promises.
So,
Some kind of agreement.
so I don't want to influence your discussion until you get the presentation. My initial thoughts on this was that there's nothing that came out of this that I either A, don't already know, or two, have addressed with you in this board on a number of occasions in the past. So there's nothing glaring coming out of this other than reiterating sort of what I've already said, which is we need staffing and we need better assessment models. Keep in mind that the organization that we have, that I've been building since 2005, we have progressively gotten better with the revenue that we received in doing that at the lowest cost to the community. Now we're to the point now where for it to be sustainable in the future, we need to think differently. You know, one of the things that was like, well, there's no rhyme or reason to the assessments that are being charged currently today to Gill, Bernardston, or Irving. You're right, because when we first started talking about this, there was no assessment to these communities. It was, we needed to get them on board so that we could have the revenue to start building the organization. Now that we've built the organization, the infrastructure, now we need to think about how do we sustainably continue this going forward.
Well, we've talked earlier, Mark, about when Irving was here, I remember well, we talked about that it's been a very organic process, right, of building and getting buy-in and getting good collaboration with the other communities. In the meantime, what you've also been telling us is there are fewer and fewer options to the point where Northfield is the de facto regional ambulance because there is no other option for these communities. That's what's happening across rural America. I think what's nice about the report is it encapsulates and collects all of that information in one place and really justifies the history and explains it quite well. But that other piece of, there are no other real options, right? And it's noted in the report that Montague, specifically Turner's Falls, I think, has been interacting more and more with you because for intercepts in the last 2 years. So even though Montague is not starred here, that number has been going up and will continue to go up because Montague now has fewer options, right?
Yeah, I mean, you'll see the revenue's gone from, you know, minimal numbers up to 14 and 31,000 these last 2 years, and that's just at $250 a whack every time we go over there. So think about the number of times it takes us to generate that kind of money. So yeah.
And you know, and as Mark has pointed out in the past, you know, there's a lot of people who are like, well, it could just be Northfield again. Well, it won't be a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week operation if it's Northfield. The number, if you look at the numbers to operate even just 24/7, we don't run to other places. The money that Northfield would have to put in just to staff and fund that for themselves is not practical, and that's why Mark has built it to a point where he's comfortable. He's not looking to grow necessarily unless you're growing the whole operation. But right now, based on the model that he has and the staffing he has, and even then we're gonna, you know, we're looking to make sure we shore things up for him. We're at a position where everybody's going to have to realize that there aren't other options, and we all want to have as much coverage as possible. We have very good coverage for the residents of Northfield, and that includes staffing ambulances at the cost of other communities so that we can be there 24/7 for all of the communities and not overgrow. Try to grow within the size and as equipment allows. This also talks about the capital, which was a good thing, although we kind of had a capital plan. They did a much deeper dive analysis into not just buying a new ambulance. There's equipment on that ambulance.
Oh, right.
There's all sorts of things that are involved in the capital project looking at what the true cost of running an ambulance is. How is that impacted by having the other communities? We need to factor that in. We know that, yes, we do run it more because we're in the other communities. How does that impact everybody? Not trying to stick anyone's head in the sand, trying to really understand what's going on, and to some extent, what's going on in the field of ambulance. And the field of ambulance is in somewhat of a crisis in the state of Massachusetts.
Absolutely.
Small communities are at desperate need. Northfield is very lucky. Ours out of all 4 of the surrounding communities for what services the town is receiving. But it's critical in some of these smaller communities. They literally are just on a wing and a prayer on who will respond.
So I've got a few questions.
All right.
Just some things to ponder, Mark. You don't necessarily have to answer these now, but you know, the regionalization topic, I've never been in favor of it when it came to police services, EMS services. It's great that we're serving other communities for so many different reasons. I can think of 1,000 reasons why what we're doing is great, and it's a proven, shown success of everything that you've put together. So huge pat on the back for everything that you've done. What I have questions on is how would changing the overall operations to a regionalized sort of, I mean, I look at South County Ambulance for an example. I was down that way when they started to develop from South Deerfield Ambulance into what they are now. I was working in Whately. What changes could be made that are going to benefit Northfield? Because I understand how, yes, this could benefit the operation, but how is it going to benefit Northfield? That's my concern is, you know, why would we want to give up any form of control over the entity? Because my priority is Northfield first. Like, I want to make sure that this service remains here, it remains successful, and that it's here in Northfield, and we're the priority. And you know, I'm not saying that other towns aren't going to get an ambulance if they're the first ones to call. You know, and it's a rare circumstance. I don't think you've had a circumstance yet where you haven't been able to answer a call.
No, we've been 100% the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So,
I guess I'd like to hear, because I'm always like devil's advocate type stuff. I want you to convince me of something that I might already agree with. I just want you to tell me why you think that way. Just because I want people to communicate to me why they have the standpoint that they do, not just because someone else said it and they think it's a good idea. Like they actually understand the fundamentals of what it is they're standing behind and can convince me of it because they fully understand it. So I guess those are just some of the questions I would like to know. And I mean, as far as like the other communities getting a buy-in to what operations would happen, I mean, that's really none of my concern either, because right now they're getting a service for what they're buying into. So as far as having any say, well, you don't have any say what Medcare would do, you know? Like, you're gonna call them and they're gonna show up. Like, they're paying for the service of getting an ambulance when it comes. As far as having a say in anything, as a select board person, I don't think that's a priority in anything that I would want to consider going forward. So I know I mentioned that, but I really don't care what another community really has to say about our operations. It's our operations. They're getting the benefit of an ambulance service. So to give them the ability to have some sort of say for the dollars they're paying, it's like, well, the dollars they're paying are getting an ambulance service, not so much the ability to input on how the operations are run. That's Mark's deal.
So let me give you one scenario. How would you feel if the school system gave you a bill and you had no influence on how it's being spent, how their money is being spent?
I wouldn't like that.
Okay. So think of it as
experiencing that.
Think of it as, no offense, that's why I mentioned it. So think of it as, now we're talking about a town who is, now we're asking for their assessment to go from, we'll call it minimum money, you know, whatever I'm charging, $12,000 to $15,000 a year, to something a little more substantial. Are we asking for them to have the ultimate oversight in how we operate? No. But there's a couple of models, and again, I don't want to influence the conversation, but there's a couple of models in which they'll present to you some of the models that are out there. And one of them would be to create a oversight committee, basically, that allows them to be able to have some sort of discussion, but at the end of the day, this is the ultimate board if we choose to stay in that model. You know what I'm saying? If we choose to go to something different, that's completely different. What's in the benefit of Northfield? The benefit of Northfield is what you've seen in the last 2 years, is keeping these people on board, calls, are coming to Northfield where we generate revenue to pay it down and be able to operate the system. That's the benefit to Northfield. If we lose these partners and you want to have a more substantial, you want to continue, I hear what you say, you want to continue the operation. If we lose these partners, that's fine. How big is your wallet? That's the question. Is keeping these people on board is what's going to keep the cost of this operation down.
Is there any indication that would say that they wouldn't want to continue the way that they're going, I guess?
So as of right now, I would say no. I mean, all the partners are very happy with what we're doing because they can say for the last 2 years they've gotten an ambulance 100% of the time compared to anybody else in the county who can't really say that. But that doesn't mean that if we get to that tipping threshold of how much it's going to cost them, maybe it's worth the risk to go somewhere else. Who knows? Or are they willing to contract with a BLS service and hope and pray you don't need an ALS ambulance, which is what we offer. So I don't believe the partners that we have currently today are looking to go anywhere. But that doesn't mean that part of the conversation they're not going to play strong arm with us too and say, I don't want to pay that. Okay.
And an oversight, I think that sounds good, especially to hear if there's other communities that are doing a similar recipe that, obviously we would still be the governance of a Northfield Ambulance Service, but an oversight would be similar to like what the Emergency Services Committee means to, when the select board goes to vote on something. Like obviously we take everything they say and do and the work that they put in, the opinions they develop very heavily. So just like with an oversight committee, it would give the towns the ability to have a buy-in in the say. They would have a seat at the table, but ultimately the decisions would be made elsewhere. But it would be highly unlikely that we would make some sort of a decision outside of what an oversight would really advocate for. So
My conversation that I had with the consultant regarding some of the models, one of them was the South County model. He has some concerns about how that is currently structured today, where he sort of feels that the oversight board, the way the contract is written currently down there, gives the oversight board an illegal authority over how they operate down there. Is at the end of the day, it's really Deerfield's select board that is supposed to be in charge of that and not that oversight board. He's taken that away from that conversation, and I think that any recommendation he makes to you would include that oversight stays here and not with them. So.
Right, and part of this is too that in order to actually change, there has to be some governing authority. So if it doesn't stay a town department, you've got to create a district. That's a whole nother ball of wax. That's state legislation. Nobody's proposing to go that route because it has to be.
It's technically not a town department anymore.
No, he is.
No. If you went that route,
Yes,
if you
if
went
we
to
become
a
a
district,
district, then it's a district and the
If you
members
belong-
are part of a district. But that's a very serious step in terms of just the paperwork and going to the legislator, writing a law.
Where there is no law today to do that.
Right, so
Or not
there has to
from
be,
the EMS.
there has to be the
That's
buck
true.
stops here
It has
right
to be
now.
through the fire.
You would
Even if we wanted to do a district, it has to be through
fire
fire.
days
district.
to do a fire district.
There's
There's no
no
such thing
separate
as an-
EMS
Yeah.
district.
Oh, okay.
That's,
Because most communities in Massachusetts, EMS is with fire.
ambulance is part of the
So
fire.
it's all based on fire
Right.
districts,
So you
not
can't
on
have an
EMS
EMS
district.
district. So it's not really something I think that Mark's looking to do, nor are they advocating for it. So it's going to have to stay under the umbrella of Northfield, or a town, Northfield, no matter what at this point. So nobody's looking to say, let's make it a district, or let's completely take the authority away. It isn't even practical at this point in time.
That's a lot of
I
work.
think what he's trying to do, and which I think Mark has actually done informally, and he should step up and say that, he has consulted with the other towns when they were going to do things. I've been in a meeting where you had Irving and Bernardston, like they have just to say, okay guys, we're looking to do, just, it's informal. They don't have any ability to vote on anything per se, but to keep the partners informed is only the best thing you should be doing anyway before you propose to do anything or how it will impact them. Like when they were going to add Gill, he said, let me talk to Irving and Bernardston. This is a new partner. I'd like to get their input. How do they feel? They're already here. They're already paying. So, he's doing a lot informally what might be more formalized, which has not changed at all how he comes to this board for, a town entity.
I have a question about the money. So on one of the pages it says current assessments are extremely favorable to member towns, and we've kind of danced around that and talked about that. why, and also to, you know, what he said, why do we think that if we went through and made calculations and said this is the fair price, why would that not be acceptable to folks, right? You pulled a number out based on your knowledge at the time and gave them something so we can get everybody lined up. So right now we've done a reassessment. We've done a reassessment of costs, and here we have 4 towns. What would the numbers look like differently if they were? You would base them on the number of calls.
There's several
So
models.
there are a couple of
instead.
different models. Again, I don't want to.
Got it. Okay.
You know, that's part of that presentation that comes from the consultant. But there's you can calculate the assessments based on the budget of the population, call volume, EQV, blah 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 blah. And again, that's all part of the bigger conversation that has to happen after the study is completed with everybody here. Is to say, okay, what route do we want to go? Bring the partners around the table and say, okay, here's the number can be from here to here based on what we're thinking. You know, each community has a different share based off of which assessment model you go with, blah blah blah. And you know, at that point in time, everybody's going to have to make a decision: do they want to continue to pay that money or not? Do I think that they will? I don't think they have many options, and I think they will, but I can't speak for them. I mean, you go to Bernardston and you tell them that their assessment is going to go from what was free to I begged and pleaded for them to pay me something so that we wouldn't lose the business, to now you're asking them to quadruple
Big
their
fair
assessment,
market value for what they're getting.
whatever. You know, that's going to have a sticker shock to it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
agree.
I mean, Alex would know. I mean, you go to buy a car and they give a price that has 6 numbers associated with it now. I mean, it's unheard of.
Big numbers.
You know.
So there's a couple of different models in here, but it also talks about the typical ways that people do this: population, percentage of runs, and then EQV which is the equalized value. The state determines that based on the wealth of the community, and it's a whole host of factors. Basically, it's ability to pay. For shorthand, it's ability to pay. So then you can play around. Do you do this percentage of this percentage of that, to try and make it more equitable? And that becomes the discussion.
Yeah, first of all, I like the information in there, and second of all, I'm glad the guy couldn't make it tonight. So it gives me more time, because I thought I was kind of rushed. You know, I happened to look at this Friday, and I was like, wow.
There's a lot of information.
There's a lot of information.
Yeah.
The one concern I had from my initial readings is, just to keep in mind, when we have a capital project, if we build a new building, we need to be able to pass that on to people, the other towns too.
So,
you know, Northfield shouldn't have to absorb the whole. They should be part of an assessment. We have to figure something out so that everything is equitable.
So in again, looking as part of the presentation, they make it very clear is that they understand that the building piece of this is going to be an important factor in the future. But it's not really brought into this discussion at this point. They know it's a problem. They know it's an outstanding issue. They know we've been working on it.
I read that. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's part of, again, the bigger conversation when we get there. Is, no offense, Norfolk needs to figure out what we're doing first with a public safety building
really
before we can figure out how we're going to sell.
Oh, I know that. I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that in the future, you know, you may want to mention, you know, make sure the towns that we're getting it, if we do regionalize, we bring them in, they realize that there's going to be a cost to that.
Yeah.
Right, and there was a lot of talk about you can't totally build them based on necessarily the same percentage because they're never going to own a part of the building. But what would rent be? You can base it on some kind of rent that could be factored in as part of the operating cost, and that would be how you would recruit.
You might build a building in another town if you regionalize.
Again, I think again we'll have to discuss that when we get there.
That's just a wild out there thing.
I took away from our town meeting is that the citizens of Norfolk don't want to see us leaving town.
Right.
That if we were to leave town, I think we got bigger political issues going on other than keeping the building sustainable. I mean, keeping the organization sustainable. But I think to what we're saying about the building is that as part of the longer term conversation that are after this study is completed, is that there's a couple of different models. It can be A, like you said, which is we figure out a rent, and then that increases the assessments to the communities. Or two, is we figure out what the cost is, and then that is subtracted from the indirect cost that Northfield gets assessed if we're going to be the owners of the
Right,
organization.
lower our assessment. There's different ways you could try to make that equitable.
Right, as long as, I just wanted to make sure I mentioned it. That's, I realize it's not something right now. Just, yeah.
Completely understandable.
That's it. I'm fucking long term, I was trying to think through.
And we had discussions with them.
I was going to say that meeting that she mentioned, that was one of the topics, which is that if we have a building going forward, everybody needs to understand is that there's going to be a cost associated with this.
Right. As long as we let them know up front, that's a future cost possibly, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
It's not, I think the good point, Bernie, it's not unlike some of the other services that we're in, whether it's education or some of the FERCOG services where different towns join together, but there is an agreement. And I think the models would presume, because we haven't really talked about, all of this so far is built on people who are actually employed elsewhere, correct? You and Cam are on stipend. The paramedics that we have, for the most part, are volunteer / on-call. So one of to play devil's advocate to the devil's advocate is the reason why people would want to buy in is to assure that there would be an ambulance service going forward. So right now, my concern would be if we take any of those important players like yourself or Cam or Rebecca out of the picture, then we don't have a model necessarily to talk about. It has to be built from the ground up again, right? So I think that needs to be front and center regardless of the model. Does the model bring us some stability in terms of being able to offer people employment that sustains the service going forward? Because otherwise it's a volunteer operation, just like with fire and people don't realize that you do as much as you do, but you guys and how hard it is, but then you guys are actually working full-time jobs in other towns.
I was at a full day. I was at a full day event last week on Thursday that talked about specifically recruitment, retention in public safety positions and what is happening. There's some very clever ideas, and one of the things is they were free to admit is there is a crisis in paramedic staffing. It is a full-blown crisis in some communities. There just aren't a lot of them. There aren't enough of them. So we have to take that into account. Mark's been very creative. We have to make it an attractive position. We have to keep people on board. We've had to play with, people's hours to make sure they can work. Some of them have covered a lot of time, giving up a lot of their life to do it. And we really want to make sure that so the quick answer to your question, Heath, about why we would do this and why we would change the model is one word: sustainability.
But we're sustainable already.
Well, no, we're not. If you look at the charts, you'll see that we actually aren't ultimately sustainable.
Well, that's what I need to see.
If I have a heart attack right now, I'm pretty sure that
model falls apart.
Fall apart.
So it's balanced on some very specific things.
That's my point. Yeah. Like if this guy goes away, the service goes away, right?
Yeah.
Our public safety is built on volunteer, which is great. It's been a very strong attribute and something that we don't want to give up in Northfield. But at some point it comes at a cost. And if something happened, right? That's the concern that I have with public safety in general, be it fire or EMS. And because of the employment, there's not enough people to go around. We're all competing in Massachusetts for the best, for any paramedic, never mind the best ones. So
that's why everybody's forming these kinds of groups, because that is the only way to employ enough paramedics to actually make it sustainable.
It gives them permanence and it gives them a home base as opposed to this just being like a part-time thing that they do.
And the other thing you'll find out to make this sustainable is ultimately we have to get into the capital discussion.
Yeah.
We got an ambulance, a new ambulance. The town bought one a number of years ago. It's been paid off. That's great. We got a new one based on what Mark has been able to put together and a little bit of money from a grant. But ultimately, going forward, all this equipment has to be replaced, and it has to be placed on a schedule. And we can't continue to just sort of limp along and expect people to serve in that. So that's another piece that, and if you look at the capital investment chart, you actually see that it goes negative in 2031. So there is a sustainability model, and that's assuming a certain level of input by every community to a capital.
Okay, so we're at a little after 7 now. I want to just be
anyway,
mindful of the time, so I just
there it
want to
is.
get
Yeah.
through some of our business and stuff before our 7:30 hearing. So,
Can I just make one last point, which is, you talk about having a sustainable model going forward. If you were to look at this from a volunteer perspective, think about it from the time the pager goes off, you respond out, grab the ambulance, go to the call, pick up the patient, take them to a hospital, come back, do a report, restock. It's a 2-hour process just for one call. We're now at 1,000 calls a year. You're talking about 3 calls a day, roughly.
Yeah.
You're asking a volunteer to take 6 hours each and every day out of their life to volunteer. That's not a sustainable model. Plain and simple. And then you're looking to get people who are trained at that level to live within your community to be able to respond on a volunteer basis. Unsustainable.
Yeah.
okay.
I'm with Bernie. We need more time.
Well, yeah, it gives us more time to look
Yeah.
at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good, yeah.
So I will I will send you out
It's
the
gonna be a warm-up.
updated one again. I think that some of the numbers change a little bit, but you're not gonna see much change in the discussion narrative conclusion to consider. And I will reschedule. I'll probably have to have him zoom in at this point because I don't think he has a car anymore. Just kidding. After the picture I got.
We'll get it done.
But then he can come in. You've got it in front of you. He's
Yep.
got the PowerPoint. We can.
Do you want this back?
That's yours if you want it.
Mark, seriously, I've said it a million times, thank you for everything you've done, because we wouldn't even be able to have this
Yes.
discussion if it wasn't on the back of all the work that you've done over
Yeah.
all these years to get us to this point,
Yeah.
so.
Thank you.
And it's not just this community, you know, I've heard it from other people whenever I bump into people I used to work with everywhere else, and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
the ability to do this, because there was a long period of time where people like police officers were showing up in towns like Irving to do medical calls and no one else was showing up, and it's tough, and they don't have to worry about that anymore. So, and it's great that our town is seen as the resource in that sense, and it's really it's on the town, but really it's on you that did it. So
Yeah.
We're a model, and you're guiding
The
that
leader,
model.
yeah.
You're a leader. So
Yeah.
don't go anywhere.
No heart attacks.
I make no guarantees, unfortunately. Thank you.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Well said, Heath.
Yeah, thank you, Keith.
Interim select board meeting? None. Meetings and events attended by select board members? I don't think I had anything. Anybody else?
I have the Friends of the Northfield Seniors.
Heath?
nothing that's off the top of my head, but usually I remind myself by looking at my calendar.
Yeah, well, I usually keep that as a very open agenda item. Like if any, like we all have busy lives. If you think of something throughout the meeting or something, you're like, oh yeah, I attended that. I don't really think that's a really big deal. We'll put that in.
And, does everybody keep up on the Northfield, Northeast IT updates?
Yep.
You should be.
Should
I
be.
actually get your numbers, so if you're not
Yeah.
doing them, I know.
Yeah.
Oh, the
you are.
training?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are easy.
The reason, just so you ever know, that we do them for insurance purposes.
Oh, yeah.
Our
Okay.
insurer requires them. Did you have some, I know as well? We went last night to that.
Oh my God, I've got, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm back to like my old. Do you want me to go through mine?
Sure.
Okay. So ARPA storefront, interviews for the assistant treasurer / collector. Went to the Chamber of Commerce event at Cameron's Winery
Oh, I
on
wanted to go so
Thursday. It was so good. That's why I was joking with Chris Sellers, because he was there, as was Liz from 4-Star. So that was good. There were a lot of Chamber of Commerce members and FERCOG people. And then last night I went to the PVRS Community Forum for Master Facility Planning. I went to that. That was a 2-hour community, getting everyone up to speed and kind of getting input. not a lot of details at this point. I would mark your calendars for November 2nd is the follow-up community forum, and then they'll be presenting their thoughts and I don't know if they're specifically recommendations on facility ideas. The impression I had, it was a good turnout last night, and the impression I had is there'll be a big ask coming out of it, but we'll see. And yeah, that was it. That was
Sarah?
enough. So I started my PhD.
Congrats.
Yes, first week of classes. It was very exciting. I went to the Economic Development Committee meeting, the Sewer Commission meeting, the 350th coffee hour about West Northfield. So there was some amazing history.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, really great. That's the second to the last, so there's only going to be one more coffee hour in the 350th. And then I had a meeting with the Oral History Project folks.
Cool.
I feel like I went to a 350th something in between there too, but I can't recall at the moment.
Town administrators update?
I have a couple of different things. First, I'll just get my notes out. First, I have an interesting update on the police fire chief. I just learned today I haven't even had a moment to reach out to the fire chief to let him know. This came in at like 3 o'clock today. So on the third reading, I don't know how it got this far without anybody saying anything. On the third reading of the bill in the House, it was noted that when it emerged from the Public Service Committee initially, went to Public Service initially, they had made a substantive change to the bill. The bill, they went from the ask that you had to 1 year. I think we all knew that. Well, on the third reading of the bill, the committee that does the third reading determined that changing it from December 31st, 2026 to August 13th, 2024, and they're going back to August 20, so his next birthday, is a substantive change. And therefore they need a vote of the select board, stamped by the town clerk, and mailed to them in order to move forward.
And that will get him to the 50.
That will get him to the next reading. Hopefully the third reading will pass it out, the House will vote it, and then it goes to the Senate.
Yeah.
And then it would go to the governor. So that just moves it along the process. They decided for whatever reason, I don't know why the first 2 readings of the House didn't determine this, but in the third reading, they decided that the change from the Committee on Public Service was a substantive, and now the select board, because when you put in your warrant article, it says that certain changes can be done with the select board, not having to go back to the full town meeting. They determined that this was one that the select board would have authority to make the change of, but they want to see that the select board has voted to make that change. Okay. So I will put it on your agenda for 10-3. I will send this out to Skip so that he understands what's happening. You will have to vote it then. I will get it stamped by the town clerk, and we will mail it in, and hopefully that will be enough to keep moving the process along.
Okay.
Oops. So that's where that stands. The 350th parade. The parade we're up to pretty close to 90 different entries.
Wow.
So lots of tractors, lots of cars, lots of floats, lots of town things, now we've got the Gil Montague Pet Band, we've got the PBO, the Pioneer Marching Band, we've got some brass band, so all sorts of stuff. I keep saying I'm putting my foot down, no more entries. I can't rearrange this parade one more time, or I think I'm going to lose every piece of hair I have in my head. But something too good comes up, and so then we add them in. But anyway, it's coming along.
That's awesome.
Postcards are going out. Hopefully, if I get there tomorrow, they look like this. You guys can take a look at them. These are getting mailed tomorrow. I have to go buy the postcard stamps. So these have been printed. They have stickers from the assessor's office. They are going out to all the residents in the almost 70 addresses off of Highland. So the roads up Highland, Pine, Gunwood, all in that area where the parade will be lining up. You can pass one down to everybody. To kind of try to give them the most simplest heads up we can. tell them, please come, walk on over, enjoy the lineup. That alone should be interesting enough. But come on over and enjoy the parade. But it will be a one-lane road down Highland for just those few hours, because we have to line the parade up somewhere. But we wanted to give everybody a heads up this is coming.
So they still will have travel on?
I'm going to keep it one lane. That's all we can do.
Good
is
for
we can
you.
line up
Oh, I
one
thought
lane.
it was going to be totally closed.
No, the road will be
Oh,
closed
okay.
from the end of Pine. You won't be able to come into Highland, and
Got
the road will
it.
be closed at the end
Okay.
of Highland. Like, it's going to be its own little world,
Right.
and then they will close the whole road before the parade starts.
Okay.
But if someone, obviously, we had to keep it open. There's an emergency. We would want an ambulance.
Right.
Or we have the fire trucks. It'd be easy for them to get there. So yes, our hope is to keep as much to one side. It will probably be a small lane. We have some big vehicles, but I'm just hoping people will not plan anything like a family reunion that day. We do know there's a wedding at the golf course.
Yeah, I
Let's not
talked
get
to
into that.
Shelby about that.
Anyway, so so that I just wanted you to see that. Hopefully tomorrow I have them all stamped, addressed with stickers. So tomorrow I'll get the stamps and get them out for people for about 10 days out, so they get time to get them in the mail, get a heads up.
Okay.
Volunteers, we have our first meeting this weekend. Saturday morning, we'll be meeting out here if it's not raining. Hopefully it won't be, because it's not going to rain for the next 12 days. Everybody knows that, right? 12 days.
Good luck.
Fingers crossed. Or if it does, it has to stop on the 28th. I'm done with that.
Yeah.
And we're going to start talking about, things that get set up. We have to start the 28th, picking things up. The 29th, we're going to do doing some setup. The 30th, obviously, the morning of. Start talking about what people's duties are as the volunteers, so they can start taking positions. They'll see the map. They'll see the kind of the lay of the land. I don't know if we'll have the T-shirts ready for handout by then. I was kind of hoping we will, so people could get their T-shirts. And that will be the first meeting, and then the volunteers will meet before the parade, obviously, that morning, and we will finish that up.
Fantastic coordination, Andrea.
So we're working really hard on that. And we will have the 29th, the day before, we'll be marking out the vendor craft fair that's happening over there in front of the we're up to 18 different participants there. So that should be a fun little place to come and check out them. Starting at 10 a.m. that morning. If you're coming in for the parade, come walk the little vendor booth thing. This parking lot will be closed for parking. I have to park the volunteers somewhere. We will have porta potties on the side where the staff parking is, so that the public will have it. And we have porta potties at the school where there's going to be an MC and bleachers, and we'll have some up top for the participants. But please don't try to park here or at Maple Street, the lot across from Maple Street. That's for people to pick up after the parade. School is open, Bible church is open. We'll have some parking down the side streets going one way and coming east, and we'll lining up it. But this town hall, we're obviously using the Trinitarian Church, so don't even think about it. So town hall and the lot across from Maple have to be closed for what we need to do. But hopefully everyone will park, find a place to park. If you have friends coming into town, park them in your driveway, help us out.
Okay.
And the vendor show. So that's where we're kind of at with the parade. ARPA update. You have the latest ARPA sheet, I think, in your homework. Did it go in your homework? Did we put this in your homework?
Mine plays back.
I think we did. Just to kind of give you a little update on where we are. You'll see a lot of projects are moving forward. We still have a few that we're just waiting for the vendor for various things. Sometimes it's parts, sometimes it's just services that just haven't been done yet. But some of them are closed out. A fair amount of them, everything with an X is closed out. So you'll see that we've closed out a few, and that there's a few that are getting close. So we still have a little bit of money, and hopefully the ARPA committee will consider meeting soon to discuss that. Everything under the ARPA rules has to be allocated by December 31st this year. It don't have to be all spent, it must be allocated. So it will be the committee's goal to expend all the unobligated funds by December 31st.
Yeah, we're in good
Just wanted to keep you an update on where we are with the ARPA projects.
Does the unexpended mean that that's coming back to the fund, or is that just they haven't quite finished?
It's both.
Okay.
Some of it hasn't been appropriated, and then it also feeds back in from the funds that return. So that 9,000 is included in that 15.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 15 is really the total of what's unobligated at this time.
Yeah, we'll find a way to Obligate it.
We're working on it.
Yeah, we have a request for a reserve fund transfer. I told him to put in for fire, but I think we may make it an ARPA request. It would be about
Okay.
a little less than half of that, so we haven't
Okay.
done much for the fire, so that's me.
Great. We have 10 minutes here. We'll move on to our business. We should be able to knock a few of these out of the way.
Yeah.
Highway maintenance resignation, I see here, dated September 11th, 2023. Highway maintenance resignation from Austin Jenkins about wanting to accept his resignation for the position of building maintenance with the town, effective 2 weeks from that day, with his last day being Thursday, the 21st. Not an easy decision to make, as I've really enjoyed my time in town. Thank you for the opportunities and the support you've provided me. Wishing everybody the best. This is too bad. This is once again another resignation from the highway department, and I'm very disappointed that this keeps happening. This is kind of like a pattern at this point. We can't seem to keep anybody with the highway department. So I would advocate exit interviews, which don't seem to happen. I know we reach out to people, but we need them to happen because we have nothing
They have been,
to go off of unless
They
we
have-
have something.
can't be forced.
Unless we have
Doing
something
my
to
best.
go forward with in guiding the policy and discretion and direction of the Northfield Highway Department. So I would like to see a stronger push for exit interviews and a strong reevaluation of what exactly is going on as to why we can't keep anybody with that department. I don't think that's very unreasonable request from the select board to push forward with something like that, because I'm getting really tired of having to accept highway resignations. I think the number's up to at least 10 at this point since I've been on this board, and no other department has had that issue. So I'd like to.
Well, what we talk about it under proposed agenda topics then, because I think data would be helpful. And I know
Yes.
highway is just as problematic as the marketplace for highway people is just as problematic
It's a
as
very
public
hard
safety.
field to fill.
Right,
because-
everyone's moving around at the next opportunity
Yeah,
type thing.
and it's an easy job to hop from and go somewhere else because everybody's looking for somebody.
Right.
It's very labor intensive, and there's also arguments to be made of a generational issue, and wanting to get involved in manual labor like that. So
Also, Tom and I have discussed this particular position. This position has been difficult. This position has turned over less than a year several times. We're looking for some different structure maybe to this position and possibly even a different set of duties. I've sent him the new job descriptions. I'm still working on the HR comp, but the first thing was the job descriptions. Those are in. And I'm asking him to look at the job description to see how he might change it and edit it and revise it. He's had some ideas on how he might change that position and how it interacts with in the whole highway department and with the town hall. And I've asked him to do that first. What is his vision? Then we will meet and discuss that. Obviously, if there's going to be any change to the position or the job description, it would come before the board before that happened.
Yeah.
But I asked him to start with that first to see what the vision is that he's seeing, and maybe that would also help with that position somewhat.
Does that fall under the subcommittee that we put together with you? Aren't you and Tom
Right.
and Andrea meeting
Right.
on a
We
regular?
haven't really met lately. We could certainly do it that way.
yeah, a lot of things going on. Let's just get this parade done with first, and then we'll move on to
Oh, here.
doing things
I
like
think
that.
several
But
people in
I've
town are
asked
like,
Tom
let's get
to,
the right.
I've asked Tom to at least look at it. If he has a
Yeah.
vision on how to change it, he should start with that
Yeah.
vision.
Okay.
He's the
Okay.
department head.
So we'll need to make.
I'll
Bernie?
make a motion to accept the resignation of Austin Jenkins from the Highway Department,
Second.
effective Thursday, September 21st, 2023.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, good luck, Austin. Next, we'll just get this out of the way quickly
Oh,
here.
yeah.
Resignation from Alex Porozkov, Northfield Police Department. Dear Town Administrator, I write this letter to inform you that I've been accepted to attend the Massachusetts State Police Academy. A few months ago, I had an opportunity to begin this process. During this time, it was a difficult decision to make whether to proceed or not, as I enjoyed working for the town of Northfield. Due to my age, this was my last chance to seize this opportunity to become a member of the Massachusetts State Police. I began at the Massachusetts State Police Academy on September 11th, 2023. My last day with the town of Northfield will be September 10th, 2023. Note that this letter is dated September 6th, 2023. I was informed by the state police of my appointment in late August. I made my chief aware of this the day after I was notified. It was also after this I decided to submit a request for a leave of absence from the town of Northfield. After submitting this request, it was supposed to be decided on by the board on September 5th, 2023. It was going to be contingent on that decision, on when I submitted my 2-week notice. Due to me rescinding my leave of absence request, this letter is my official resignation and notice. I wanted to be noted that I was unable to give an actual 2-week notice due to these circumstances mentioned above. Although I did notify my chief of my last day more than 2 weeks in advance, so he could plan ahead. I appreciate all of the things the town of Northfield has done for me and everyone I have worked with. Respectfully submitted, Alexander Poroskov. So,
I move that we accept the resignation from Alex Poroshkov and offer our congratulations and thanks and all the best wishes for his next step in his career.
Second.
I think Bernie got that one.
Ooh, Bernie.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's like a horse race on
I
the
was going to say, it's cheering for people
on the
to
motions and
get the
stuff.
seconds.
Little competition.
All right.
Ooh, yikes.
By law and by protocol, we have to start this meeting at exactly 7:30. There's no
Correct.
way around it. I can't start it early. I can't start it late. So I'm just trying to be mindful of the time here and
Yep.
what agenda items we can reasonably get done in the next 5 minutes. So I'm just going to quickly go over just some of the other stuff down below, which doesn't really have much things to discuss. There were no topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of the meeting. Nothing came forward for us. Committee and board appointments, there is none at the moment, but we will discuss candidates for the Emergency Services Facility Committee after we complete the dog hearing. Announcements, I don't think there's any announcements at this time, and nothing for recognition of service at the moment that I can think of.
We recognized Alex already, so,
Yeah.
and Austin.
Yeah.
Skip the proposed ones till later.
Yeah, I don't want to waste too much time on the proposed
Okay.
agenda items,
Okay.
so
Fine.
Well, oh yeah, never mind. We're meeting on
yeah,
Tuesday
we're
again.
meeting on
Yeah,
Tuesday
yeah.
again. So,
Sooner than usual.
I want to get my paperwork in line here. If anybody wants, we'll just do that. We'll just take a couple minutes here and then resume at 7:30 in preparation for the dog hearing that we will be having. So. Forward with our 7:30 appointment for a dangerous dog hearing. So at this time, I'm going to make a motion to open the 7:30 p.m. dangerous dog hearing, September 19th, 2023.
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second on that?
Second.
Need a roll call vote for the opening of this hearing.
Sarah Kearns?
Sarah is yes.
Yes.
Pete Cummings, yes.
Bernie Boudreau, yes.
Alex Meisner, yes.
Bijak, yes.
Yes. Okay, so I'd like to make just a quick statement before we get started here. I currently am employed with the Franklin County Sheriff's Office. I work as a correctional officer for said Sheriff Department. And meeting with Andrea and consulting the necessary parties, it is determined that it is not a conflict of interest for me to be involved with this, since I in no way answer to or have any direct dealings with the Franklin Animal Control Officer, his position, his organization. So they're kind of two separate entities. So with that being said, we're going to move forward here. I will be chairing and running this hearing. And at this time, I'm going to ask all parties that are to be involved with the hearing to raise your right hand as I'm going to administer an oath. Yes. Who else is involved with the hearing?
If you're going to testify.
Are you planning on testifying? Raise your right hand. Okay. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time I will hear the complainant's testimony on this hearing, so please come forward. State your name for the record, please.
Patricia Kinsella, 164 Upper Farms Road. Hi. A week ago Saturday, my son Raphael, who is here, had left his dog Rio in my care from Saturday until Sunday. In the afternoon, when I was just beginning to take care of the dog, we have a studio building on our property. That's where Raphael and the dog were staying. I got the dog out and had him use the yard. I was treating him with bits of hot dog to bring him back into the studio. He was doing great. We entered the studio. It's a long, narrow building. The dog's crate, food, and water bowls were at the far end of the building. I noticed that there was a tall container of kibble right near the front entrance to my left. I had run out of hot dog. I thought I would treat the dog as he was doing well with his sitting. I bent over, began to open the container, and the dog attacked me and latched onto my left forearm. I grabbed the collar and was able to pull him off, but the collar broke. So I lost control of the ability to control the dog using his collar. He bit my breast. There's blood pouring out. I was able to control the dog by grabbing the top of his head, the flesh. And this was a scary experience. I'm grateful that I was able to think on my feet and maintain some sense of composure. I, in my head, was saying, okay, you've got to try and slow this down. The dog is barking. The dog is, trying to get released so that he can, I believe, get me again. There's just blood. I was able to finally figure out that I could back towards the door and use one foot to try and begin to close the door behind me. I think what happened is that I got to the edge of the threshold. I think I thrust the dog, grabbed the door, and closed the door in the studio, and then, holding my arm, got into my house and called 911. Our first responders, as you know, are terrific. Ambulance came police came, and I had requested that my neighbor Shane Duclos come. That family is a good friend of mine. He's also a first responder, and he knows my own dog, who was enclosed in my home throughout this. She didn't see anything. Got me in the ambulance, got IV. They took me down to Bay State here in Greenfield. They started me on the rabies series. They started me on antibiotics. They stitched me up. I had stitches in multiple places here. I had a stitch in my breast. Sent me home. Unfortunately, sent me home Saturday night. By Monday morning, it was clear that my arm had become infected. I went back down to Bay State. Thank you, Sam and Barbara. And they admitted me from Monday morning until Thursday night, where I had IV antibiotics, CAT scan. The surgical team was by multiple times. And they released me on Thursday night. I'm on antibiotics. I have just one rabies shot left. And so I am grateful both for our skilled and experienced first responders in Northfield and the terrific emergency and healthcare I received at the hospital.
Okay. Any supporting witnesses' testimony at this time, Patricia?
There was no one else there when it happened.
Okay. So, in other words, you were the only individual there. So, we wish for your current testimony to be stated as the only person involved in the incident.
I was the only person there.
You and the dog. Okay. Questions / cross-examination by the Board of Selectmen, Northfield Select Board. So,
Just a point of order, is
Yes.
the ACO a supporting witness?
Yeah, I guess you would consider that. I was going to put it under just the third one if there was any cross-examination that we wanted to do, but
Either order, I just want to make sure the ACO has an opportunity.
Right.
Yeah, just,
so suppose at this time if
I think it might be helpful.
yeah, let's have the animal control officer speak if you'd like to speak.
Yeah, no, for sure. Kyle Dragon, lead animal control officer of the Franklin County Sheriff's Office. I received a phone call around the 9th, around a little after 4 o'clock, from the Shotgun Patrol Dispatch on behalf of Northfield Police Department in regards to a dog attack that had occurred. I was off duty at the time. My response was delayed. Upon my arrival at about 7:30 that evening on scene, I was met by the same Northfield police officers who had informed me as to the dog's demeanor when they were there earlier. Upon visually seeing the dog through the studio window that was previously described, I found the dog to still be in a very heightened, volatile state. After some very careful work, I was able to remove the dog from the apartment on what we call a control pole. So about a 5-foot long metal pole for everyone's safety involved, and secure the dog into my cruiser. The dog was then transferred to our shelter at the same where it remains at this time. It is undergoing the 10-day quarantine. Tomorrow is day 10, so after tomorrow it'll be released from that 10-day quarantine period.
Mr. Dragon, what would you say the seriousness was, the level of seriousness involved in controlling this animal? I know I've heard you just mention that. Would you say this was a complicated control endeavor?
Based on the dog's disposition, it was acting very territorial and very protective of the apartment. It lunged and snapped and grabbed the control pole multiple times as I attempted to utilize the pole to snare it through the door. Based on the dog's demeanor, I was only able to open the door approximately about 4 inches, just enough to allow me to work a little bit, but not allow the dog to exit the building for safety concerns of myself and the officers on scene. All in all, it took us approximately 10 minutes to get that dog secured.
And there were no non-lethal agents required?
No.
Okay. Do you have access to non-lethal agents?
I do.
Okay. And you determined based on your experience and training that that was not necessary at this time?
Based on the circumstances that I presented at the time, they were not required.
Okay. All right, I'm all set with Officer Dragon. If anybody else has any questions? Yes.
Officer Dragon, from the time of the
Deputy.
incident, deputy, sorry. The time of the incident to your time of response, how long would you estimate that was?
Time of the incident, I was called around 4 o'clock, between 4 and 4:15. I was notified of the incident. I spoke with Officer Minor of the Northfield Police Department about that time. I was able to respond to the scene at about 6:30, arriving at about 7:30, at which point I was met by Officer Minor at the scene.
So it was over 3 hours?
Yeah, that's correct. So there was a lengthy de-escalation period during that period of time.
And the dog was still agitated after?
Upon my arrival, yes.
Okay.
I see in your report that you inquired as to the vaccination status of the dog, and you were told by the owner that the dog had recently been vaccinated. But you contacted the veterinarian, is that correct?
That is correct. I was informed by the officer Officer Minor, when he initially spoke with the owner, Raphael, that the dog had recently been to the vet and there was believed it was vaccinated. It was treated as that. When I spoke to Raphael the follow-up the following week, it was determined the dog had recently been to a veterinarian, but the vaccination status was unconfirmed. It was later confirmed to not be vaccinated when I spoke to the vet clinic a little after noontime that day.
So when you spoke to the vet clinic, the dog was not vaccinated for anything?
It had been seen for I believe they said an infection, but I'm not positive. But it had no vaccines on file at the vet clinic.
Thank you.
Deputy Dragon, can you describe the demeanor of the dog in the shelter and how the dog is?
Absolutely. What we've seen since the dog came into our care the evening of the 9th has remained in our care. He's been completely hands off. None of our employees or volunteers are having any physical contact with this dog. We're using a airlock system to maintain his care. We have indoor-outdoor kennels, so we'll get him to go outside. We'll secure the inside, clean that, bring him back to the inside, clean the outside, so there's no contact between employees or the dog. What we see from the dog's demeanor during the time the dog's been with us is at 1 second the dog will be very energetic, very happy, appear to have very docile, outgoing demeanor. However, that immediately can change to a more aggressive, territorial, volatile demeanor. There was one instance where one of our volunteers was feeding a dog in an adjoining kennel, had not even passed the dog's kennel where this dog is, and the dog was witnessed to be jumping up, aggressively barking at the volunteer and attempting to grab the door of the kennel door, trying to get through the kennel door at the volunteer with the food bowl feeding the adjoining kennel. We've also witnessed similar things. We use a plastic watering can to fill the water bowl so that no one has to enter the kennel with it. We've experienced similar behavior when filling the water bowl as well.
So, according to Leslie Colucci, there were just a couple of times where routine work with Rio would approach the kennel door and be calm and happy to see staff members and volunteers, see attachment 1, and then on other incidents he would charge at the front of his door, leap up and bark and growl, see attachment number 2 video. Would you say that's an accurate statement?
I would.
Okay. Would you say this is a wild dog? Does it have behaviors of a wild animal?
I mean, he hasn't used the word feral or wild animal with this dog. We see very quick personality changes with this dog. It's very unpredictable. I can, for the record, I've never seen this canine in the presence of his owner, Raphael. So I do not know how this dog would react in his presence, but these are the behaviors we see outside of his presence.
Okay.
So, question for Deputy Dragon and also for Patricia. Is there any warning behaviors prior to the escalation, I'm not able to determine, I mean, my conclusion from the facts in front of me, from you and from Director Colucci, is that it seems to go from 0 to 100, for lack of a better technical term. Like, there's no other warning behaviors prior to going into full-on escalation.
To answer from the kennel side,
Yeah.
that I would agree with that statement. There was an observation tonight where the team leader showed up tonight. I noted Rio was via the video camera that monitors that kennel. I noted that Rio looked at the volunteer as she was coming down, checking to see which dogs were in and out. It's not audio recorded, so I can't attest to what noises Rio was making, but just based on body position, there was a tail wag, barking, generally like what you do with a dog, say to see someone. As the volunteer got closer, based on the body language, the demeanor completely changed, and he was then jumping up on the table, and the barking appeared to be a lot more aggressive. So, but there was no preceding warnings or factors that were witnessed on the recording when I saw it this evening.
And I'm noting that we saw that in the video attachments from Director Colucci. And then on clarification from Patricia, so you were actually touching a food container, not the food bowls?
The food bowls were 15 feet away.
Okay. And how high did you say? Is it like a trash can or something?
If this is the floor, I don't know, maybe it's, I don't know, maybe that high. You know, the plastic at the top.
Yeah.
And so I bent over. There was no warning. It was.
So you touched it and then you were
I don't
attacked.
remember. Some of it's a little, I don't remember if my hand got in. It just came out of nowhere.
Okay. I just want to clarify from a factual standpoint that it was you were touching the container, not the food bowls.
His food bowls were on the other side of the room.
Okay. And then there were a couple of pictures of the injuries, so I just wanted to clarify. It's the left arm and the right chest, not both arms. And when he grabbed your arm, he held onto your arm and bit.
I had to exert force, and as I was doing it, I thought, oh no, that's going to rip.
Yeah.
It happened very quickly.
Right.
I don't remember the bite on my breast. I remember, I don't know exactly when that happened. I'm assuming that it was I don't know.
That's okay. Yeah. But you were standing, you didn't fall or anything like that.
I am so grateful that I did not fall.
Right.
I am grateful that, I'm a pretty sturdy person. I'm grateful it wasn't my daughter, who's a slender person who maybe, sometimes emergencies aren't her forte. Again, it was scary, and I was able to, I am good in the moment. I will say, after the moment, when the first responders came, I lost it. I was not good then. I completely lost it.
Deputy Dragon, how heavy would you say this animal is?
I would estimate him to probably be between 85 and 100 pounds.
Would you say this dog has significant strength?
I would.
Is the dog neutered?
It is not.
Any additional questions at this time before we move on to section 4 of the complainant's case?
Yep. Deputy Dragon, how would you classify this animal? Would you classify it as cooperative, dangerous, aggressive?
Based on shelter policy, Rio has been flagged as dangerous.
And have you seen an animal exhibiting this kind of behavior during the course of your duties, and sort of how would you rank this in what you've seen? Have you seen animals worse than this? Is this about as aggressive as you've seen?
In my experience, as well with the Regional Animal Patrol Program, we have come across dogs in this field of similar behavior. I would say I have yet to meet a dog like Rio where the behavior changes so quickly. Usually you can anticipate what you're getting for a dog when you walk up to the kennel, whereas Rio has exhibited behavior where he, as mentioned before, one minute he can be very, very happy, the next minute he can be a completely different dog, and I wouldn't even want to guess what would happen if he got loose.
set, Brendan?
Yeah, you've asked questions that I...
Sarah? Okay, so section 4 of the complainant's case states questions, cross-examination by dog owner and or dog owner's counsel. Is there any questions? This is now let me just state that this is not your testimony at this time, Mr. Kinsella. This is solely just questions that you may ask, cross-examination to the complainant. So if you'd like to just step up, just so that we can have people facing the same direction. Questions you would like to ask?
Okay, so I just have one question. So
Okay.
the only thing that I asked her to do is just let him in and out. And I told her specifically, do not touch his food. So I just
Do you have a question?
Yeah, the question was, why did you why would you, I gave you specific directions to care for him. Why would you not listen? And I told you don't touch his food. And feeding him is my job. I left him with enough food. That's what I'm saying.
I understood your instructions to be that I didn't need to feed him. You left food for 2 days and you left water for 2 days. I didn't go near the crate. I didn't go near his food bowls. You didn't say to me that Rio has some sort of food or resource guarding reaction. If you had disclosed that to me, I wouldn't have allowed you to leave the dog in my care, and I most certainly would not have put myself in danger by opening the lid to that kibble container.
Any other questions, Mr. Kinsella? Anything else you can say for your testimony?
No, I'll save for the testimony.
Okay, thank you. Are you all set, Ms. Kinsella?
Well said, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, at this time we will move on to the dog owner's case. If you want to come back up, Mr. Kinsella. I will hear your testimony at this time.
All right. So Rio's about 4 years old. He's a rescue. I've had him since about this time, two years ago. And he's been a really good dog. He's been pretty much like my best friend for the past 2 years. So, I'm super sad that anything like this would happen. Of course, with my mother involved, it's awful, it's terrible. But he's a rescue, so he's really attached to me, and usually I'm the only person that feeds him. So I left. I had a job in Boston. I went to go work for a day and come back the next day, and I told her I left enough food for him for even though I was going to be gone less than 24 hours. I left enough food for 2 days in case he gets hungry. I'm pretty sure I told her don't touch his food. My dog is smart. The container of kibble is see-through, and he knows that I feed him. That's where his food comes from. He's never had that reaction with me, but I do know he only likes it when I feed him. That's all. But I told her just don't touch his food. I'll be back in 2 days. He's smart. He's trained. He knows to go out and come back in. All you have to do is just open the door for him. So I told her just open the door, let him out. When he's done, he comes back in. It's a really unfortunate accident that happened. I'm terribly saddened by it. I really love my mom. I love my dog, but this is just a bad accident. But I've had Rio for 2 years. He's great with other dogs. He's never been aggressive to other dogs, even in situations where a dog might show aggressiveness towards him, or he's even been bit by another dog before. He doesn't bite them back. He just, he's kind of backs away. He's even nice to smaller dogs, other dog owners. He socializes with dog owners, other dogs all the time with no problem. I live in Boston, so he sees other people, he meets other people. He's not aggressive towards them. I take him out on long walks. I take him out to the park for hours a day, and I never have a problem with him. So yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Do you have any testimony that you'd like to offer for any supporting witnesses in this matter?
This is My ex-girlfriend, we used to live together for over a couple of years, but she used to take care of the dog too. She's never had any problems with him.
Do you wish for her to speak, or are you speaking for her?
Can you speak?
I can speak.
Yeah, did you raise your hand for the testimony in the beginning on administering oath?
No.
All right, so at this time, I'll just quickly ask you to raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, please come up. State your name for the record, please.
Ariana Burke.
Excuse me?
Ariana.
Ariana Burke? Okay. Please give supporting witness testimony.
I agree with everything he said. I've been with Rio alone before while he's been away. I've fed him, I've taken him out. He's not like that with me either. I was with him the day we got him. He sleeps next to me. I would say he's protective of us. He is protective of his food, but do you have questions? I don't really know,
Well, this is your testimony. This is not the time for us to ask you questions. If you're done with your testimony, we can move forward with a cross-examination. If you have anything else to say that you'd like to factor in for the record at this time?
I have a dog of my own. They've been with each other. My dad has 3 dogs. Rio has been there before. Not aggressive to my family, not aggressive to the dogs. I have been with him at the park, at the dog park, and at the basketball court. He's never been aggressive to people or dogs.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add? All right. So at this point, we'll close out the supporting witness testimony and then move forward to question/cross-examination by the Board of Selectmen. I'll head this off. Mr. Kinsella, how responsible would you say you are as a dog owner?
I'm pretty responsible. I walk him during the summer. I'll take him out for 2 to 3 hours at a time. I feed him. I take him out so he can socialize with other people, other dogs. He always has adequate food, water. I buy expensive kibble for him. I give him snacks that are healthy for him. Every month I buy him new toys so that he has things to do. In the winter I even take him for long walks so he still get exercise. I take him out to places where he can run, like her dad's crib, be off leash, run in the woods, be with other dogs. And yeah, that's about it.
How important would you say that healthcare is to an animal?
It's the same as a human. It's very important.
Okay. Because I just want to just bring up a point here that Mr. Kinsella had stated that the dog should be up to date on vaccinations as it had recently been to a veterinarian and that he had declined to come back out to secure. All right. So you're stating in here that the dog is up to date in its vaccinations.
Yeah.
I seem to get contradicting testimony from
his previous owners. They told us all his shots were up to date. We've been trying to get
records of that.
Yeah, we've been trying to contact them. It's been hard to get in touch with them because he was a rescue. But when I brought him to the vet last time, to another dog at the park got him sick, I think. So I brought him to get antibiotics for that, and they didn't tell me of any shots I was missing or anything. So if he is missing any shots, I can take him back to the vet and get him shots.
How would you say your relationship with the dog is?
I'd say he's closer than anybody, any human.
Does this dog identify to you as its master?
Yeah.
And you have sole authority and or control over this animal when it's in your presence?
Yes.
What was your length of time with the dog?
2 years.
Do you realize the severity of the situation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you said Rio is approximately 4 years old?
Yeah. When I got him, they said he was like 1.5 to 2, like in between 1.5 and 2.5. So.
Do you know anything about the history of this animal prior to your ownership of it?
And
what you were getting involved in?
Yeah, I think it was the dog of a family, and they had him when he was a puppy, but he was getting like too big for their apartment or something. So they were basically just looking for someone to come take care of it because they couldn't take care of it. I think they had a lot of kids like running around in
So
just small apartment.
So it says that you said that you work in Boston.
Yeah.
Where's the residence of this dog? Where is it located?
He lives with me.
And where is that?
In Alston.
Alston.
Yeah.
Okay. So why was the dog at your mother's house?
Because there was 2 weeks in September where I was just looking for a new apartment, so I had moved my stuff back to her house. But there was one night that I was called into work, and I had to go back to the city. So just for one day, I had left him in her care. But by this time now, I have already got a new apartment and moved all my stuff back from her house. Really, the dog was supposed to be in her care for just like 12 hours while I worked and came back the next morning.
Okay. On the Northfield Police Department incident report, it states that your current address is homeless. Is that true?
No, I have a new apartment.
You have a new apartment. How long have you been at that apartment?
About a week and a half.
A week and a half. So
yeah,
you were at a week
like a day after the incident, I signed a lease to my new apartment and got the keys to it.
Okay. What type of training have you taken with this animal, if any? Specialized training?
I took him to a couple sessions at like these dog places in Boston, but after that, I just train him at home. You know, reward him with good behavior. He's usually just pretty good with me.
He's pretty good with you. Have you been aware of any other previous complaints with anybody else on this planet in regards to this animal?
Not really like that.
Not really like that. So is that a yes or a no?
No.
Okay. So it's been stated by the testimony of Deputy Kyle Dragon that there is a certain level of unpredictability with the behavior of this animal. Are you aware of this unpredictability, and has it ever happened around you or anybody that you know or love?
No. But no, it's not. No.
So you're not aware of the unpredictability, so you would consider this an isolated incident?
Yeah. No. He's never bit anybody like that's severe. No, I'm saying biting somebody is severe. Like that's serious.
Okay, that is a pretty serious matter. So.
That's about it. You're just regular dog shit, dog stuff.
Sure, Pete, go ahead.
As severe, did you say?
No, I said he's not. Biting somebody is severe. Like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought I misheard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like if someone knocks on the door, he'll bark, but then he'll just see, it's a regular. Oh, I know them. You know, he's friendly. It's like regular dogs, you know, barking at the mailman.
So do you find it surprising that the behavior of this animal in the dog shelter, going from happy and loving to sort of wild and in brute form, to be surprising to you?
Yeah.
And why do you think that's surprising?
I think he's just probably scared, surprised, you know.
So why is this animal very territorial over his food? And why would you give specific instructions to your mother not to feed him? Isn't it a job of somebody who's watching over a dog to provide food for him?
Yeah, it is, but that's why I left her enough food for that she wouldn't have to feed him. Usually I'm just the only person that feeds him.
Okay.
I know I just usually don't let other people besides her and me.
So you say that you properly communicated with your mother over the care, custody, and control of this animal?
Yeah, I said I left enough food. That's it.
Okay. I'm all set at this time. Heath?
I want to go back to the don't touch his food instructions that you gave your mother. Why would you give her those specific instructions? Because that's not something that I would do as someone who's owned multiple dogs over several decades. If they were taking care of my animal, I would expect them to feed them, and I don't see why somebody would give instructions not to feed the dog. Why did you give her those instructions?
Because I left him with enough food. There was enough food for 2 days. I don't want to have to feed him, you know.
But when you were sitting next to her during her testimony and you came up the first time, you were asking her, why did you feed him? Almost like you were blaming her for the bite because she fed him.
Cause I left him. I told her don't feed him, just let him in and out. Like all she had to do was let him in and out the house. Open the door. He's in his own apartment. Just open the door and let him in and let him out.
But why wouldn't she feed him? What would be the harm in that?
I mean, he's a little protective over his food, but he's never ever bit anyone over food, like over anything.
So he has exhibited his behavior of being defensive over his food before.
Not like that. Like
But he has exhibited behavior of being defensive over his food. Okay. In what ways? What is the behavior that he's exhibited before?
I might, I don't know, just like bark or I don't know.
Who was it toward?
Just like if he's hungry, like if I'm feeding him, let's say I'm feeding him, we've been out, I come back, feed him. I tell him to sit, I'm feeding him, he'll just I'm like, I tell him to wait, he'll just bark, like one bark, like I'm hungry, hurry up. It's like regular.
Well, I mean, that's excitement. That's not defensiveness. What has he done that was defensive behavior toward his food?
I mean, like if you try and like take his food while he's eating, he'll bark. You know, just regular dog stuff.
But taking his food, I mean, I can understand that. But giving him food, there was obviously an issue with those instructions because you gave her those instructions not to feed him, and you just reiterated that earlier. What behavior has he displayed before?
And it is, I don't know. I thought it was like pretty much the same thing. Like she's feeding him. I'm the only one that feeds him usually. Just I didn't want to have any problems with him. You know, she's not his owner. That's what I'm saying.
So you had enough of a concern that he's exhibited behavior before that was defensive over his food, and that's why you gave her the instructions not to give him food.
Yeah, but not like a serious concern. It's just, you know, don't worry about doing that. I left enough food that you're gonna have to do that. Just all I have to do is let him in and out.
Okay.
I would never have ever expected that to get a phone call saying my dog bit my mom. That was like my worst nightmare beyond my wildest dreams. I couldn't. Like, it changed every day of the past couple weeks for me, so.
In the animal control officer's incident report, I have a quote of something that you said in his presence, and I'll read it. Quote, I'll read the sentence. It says that Rafael Cancel also informed me that Rio was, quote, okay with people I'm okay with. Is he not okay with people that you're not okay with? What does that statement refer to?
Like, he's friendly with everybody. Like I said, like as soon as he gets to know somebody, he's like super friendly.
Has he ever been not okay with people?
No, I mean like.
So if we like contact somebody else he was in his care, the previous animal shelter that he was at, where you got him from, is anybody else going to corroborate this kind of behavior that not only happened on this date, but that they're also reporting at the animal shelter now is being held?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Is anybody else going to confirm this kind of behavior, like the place that you would rescued him from, or anybody else, maybe the police departments nearby, the residents that he's been at? Is anybody else going to corroborate?
I'm the only person. I'm his sole owner. I don't have him around other people like that.
No, but you said he was a rescue, correct?
He wasn't at a shelter. He was at like a family that couldn't take care of him.
Okay.
So they were looking for somebody to.
And what city was that from?
Boston.
It was in Boston?
Yeah.
Actual city of Boston?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, just to follow on, in the same report, in the same area of the report, you had told Deputy Dragon that Rio had issues, and I'm quoting, Rio had issues with people handling his food and that it was something that he needed to work on. He again stated that he had told her not to touch the food bowls and that he had told her he had put down enough food for 2 days. So my question for you is, based on the testimony, is how do you know he has, when you've said before he has no issues with people or other dogs, how do you know then that he does have issues with food? I'm confused by the
because he just, he just doesn't like people to, like I already said, doesn't like people interrupt him while he's eating.
So have you actually had somebody interrupt him, other than you two, while he was eating, and there was...
No, I'm saying, I mean, like, not like that. Like, I could be hanging out with my friends, be like, hey, Rio, he'll be eating. He'll be like, he'll bark.
He's just protective of his
You just be like,
space.
leave me alone. He
Yeah.
won't bite anyone. He'll
It's
just...
not
Okay,
like
I'm not talking about biting, I'm just talking about what's the behavior of the dog that leads you to believe that he has issues with food. So it could be any behavior around food that you guys have observed prior to this.
protective behavior. Like,
And what's the protective, like he growls, he barks, he
He'll
nips?
just bark one time. He doesn't nip. He might like growl once or twice, but it's just like a bark. Like, just leave me alone.
Okay,
But
to
it's-
you, to others?
No, I mean, like,
Or,
yeah,
You see what I'm getting at?
yeah, it's
That-
not.
yeah.
It doesn't happen often. I'm saying, like, I could be hanging out with somebody in my house, and he's eating, and they could say like, Rio, like, da 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 da. He's eating, like, he doesn't appreciate being bothered while he's eating. That's
So
about
when
it.
you say bothered, you mean somebody like calling his name or something like that?
Or just like
What do
messing
you-
with him.
Touching him?
Yeah, bothering him while he's eating. Like,
Has anybody
touching his
touched
food.
him or touched his food while he's eating?
No, I'm just saying it's like just
So
general
how do you know
knowledge.
he has issues then? I mean, when somebody tells me they have issues, I have a lot of dogs too. I've done a lot of rescue work. So when somebody says they have issues about food, I like to know what are the issues and
It's
what's
just
the
when
behavior.
I first got him, he was just protective of his food, but he's very mellow now. Like, it hasn't been an issue. It's not an issue. Like,
Has he ever bit you or nipped you?
more I feel like if we're playing, but like not like serious, like where I'm bleeding or I'm like hurt or anything.
Yeah.
So
I'm talking about behavior, so ignore the bite, because this is a very serious bite.
yeah, no, he's never bit
Okay.
me.
But nipping, growling, those kinds of behaviors.
Like growling a little bit, but not nipping or anything like that. Like just
Okay.
growling, like one or two barks, but not like
Okay.
serious barking repeatedly.
Okay. And he's not neutered. Is there a reason why he's not neutered? Are you...
When I got him, he wasn't neutered. I'm not sure if there's a age limit for neutering a male dog, so I didn't know. But if that's a route that something that has to happen, I'm not, opposed to it.
So do you have a regular veterinarian either in the past or where you are now?
There's
Or the clinic?
yeah, there's a place in Brighton, on Brighton Ave, I believe.
Yeah.
That I go to. I bring him to.
So you've brought the dog to a vet or a clinic,
Yeah, recently in the summer.
right? Since you've got him, you've had him for 2 years, you
Mhm,
said?
mhm.
Did the prior owner or you bring him to the vet either at the time of the transfer of the animal or since that 2 years?
I brought him a couple months after I got him, I think.
To that clinic or another clinic? Or
To a different clinic, I think. I forget,
in
it was a while
Billerica?
ago.
I'm also noting your address was Billerica.
Oh no, that was just a friend's address I was staying at
Oh,
for a
okay.
couple
Okay.
when I was looking for my new apartment.
Bernie, Sarah, anything you'd
Yes,
like to
I
say?
have-
Sarah?
I have a couple of questions. So has he ever been, the house where the attack happened, has he ever been there before? Is it a familiar location?
Pretty familiar.
Okay.
He like definitely wanted to go home because he kept trying to get in the car. I think he thought we were driving home, but pretty familiar.
And he's familiar with your mom?
So she doesn't really come around my dog much. She has her own dog.
And the food aggression, you say that you knew that pretty much as soon as he came to you, right?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
You just stated a few minutes ago that you...
Yeah, probably, yeah. I mean, he was a rescue, so I pretty much assumed he just didn't come from a good situation or, you know, whatever.
So you stated earlier that he was in a family situation and they ran out of room?
Yeah, I think it goes a little deeper than that, to be honest. I think there was a domestic situation going on in the household and that they kind of were like giving the dog up or something, so
Okay.
yeah, I don't know.
The food aggression started relatively early. Has it gotten worse?
No. Actually, yeah, the 7 days or like so that I was at my mother's house with my dog he was pretty happy, to be honest, so.
Okay. But I mean, the fact that he bit someone
Yeah.
pretty severely, it demonstrably has gotten worse, at least recently. Has he ever bit anyone else?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Okay, that's what I've got.
Okay. Have you ever abused this dog?
No.
Have you ever smacked it?
No.
Have you ever caused it any harm where it would consider it, where it would be defensive towards anybody?
No.
So you have never laid a hand on this dog to coerce it or to show corporal punishment to it?
No.
Okay. Are you aware of any type of abuse that happened to this animal before you owned it, or is that kind of a mystery?
That's kind of a cloudy mystery, I don't know.
How would you describe your relationship with the dog when you first chose to take ownership of it?
It was pretty good. It was, you know, I still remember the first day I got him. It was really good, actually.
Happy and loving?
Yeah, he came home. We had a crate for him. We had toys. We had, you know, a nice big apartment. He had a lot of space. He was really happy there. We had a backyard pretty much to ourselves. So he had his own space to go to the bathroom and run around.
Any additional?
Just one quick one.
Yes.
Do you know, did you have him microchipped?
I don't think so. I actually no. I haven't had him microchipped. No.
Oh, okay.
Questions, cross-examination by complainant and or complainant's counsel. You seek additional questions at this time. Mrs. Kinsella, please come forward. We'll make another seat for you if necessary. Yes. The way I'd like to just make sure we do this, similar to last time, is just make sure that you only ask questions and not add additional testimony at this time.
Ralph, at some point during your ownership of Rio, do you remember times when you would say to me, you had him on a leash and you would say to me, don't go near him? Right? Do you remember those times when he would be straining at the leash and you would pretty sharply say, leave him alone, don't go near him?
I don't remember saying it like that, and he's never like strained at you or aggressively like barked.
Okay. Ralph, do you remember telling me about a couple times when he nipped at friends of yours?
He's never bit them. He's just like playing around. Like if they're messing with his toy or something, like he'll bite their shoe if they're stepping on his toy. It's not like aggressively biting.
Ralph, if you bring Rio into another apartment with housemates that you don't know, do you think your housemates are going to be safe?
Yes, one of them already has a dog. Either way, I can just get my own apartment, or I can bring him to her father's house where he'll have his own space and there's plenty of land to run around in.
I think I'm done.
So, okay. All right, so that wraps up.
Can I just say from the record that when I first told my mom that I had a dog, when I was taking care of the dog for over probably half a year, she immediately told me to get rid of the dog. She was sending me links to animal shelters to go send him to So I love my mom. I know she's never wanted me to have a dog in the first place. So
Okay. Okay, so at this point, in conclusion, so we have heard testimony from all the appropriate parties in the complainant's case and in the dog owner's case involving cross-examination of multiple parties. So at this point, if there is nothing else that you want to say, there will be a motion that will be made to close the hearing. At that point, I cannot entertain any additional stuff that you hear at that point, and it will solely involve a deliberation and a discussion amongst the board of what we do with this animal. So if there's anything additional that would like to be said at this time, I'll entertain it very quickly, and then we will move to close the hearing. But that is not a motion. Deputy Dragon.
Yeah, I just have a couple of my questions were answered by the board. I have one question in regards to the residence for this dog. When I spoke to you on the 11th, which was Monday, I informed you of the quarantine stand regulations and all that. The reel was going to be under for the 10 days. I inquired where he would be going if he was going to be released, because at that point we didn't know what was going to happen.
So
yet.
at that point, he would have stayed in Billerica where I was staying. But at that time, I didn't. At that time, I hadn't signed the lease to my new apartment.
Okay.
So now he would be either staying with me in my new apartment, or at her father's house where there's a bunch of rooms. There's woods. They have a whole dog kennel there with fences. There's other dogs. So yeah.
Okay. I'm just driving at my concern here, and maybe I misheard you, but you stated earlier in your testimony that you signed your lease on Sunday.
I confirmed the lease Sunday, and then Monday I picked up the keys, but they kind of rushed the process. So basically, like that day, I was in the process of working it out with my landlord.
Okay, Deputy Dragon, can you just say that again, please?
Yeah. Like I said, maybe I misheard him before.
Okay.
But in his previous statement, he said he signed his lease for his new apartment to move into on Sunday. When we spoke on Monday, he gave me a different address in Billerica when the apartment he signed for was in Brighton.
Okay. All right.
So
that's all I needed to hear.
Yeah. And you mentioned nothing about Brighton when we spoke about potentially moving
I can
there.
show my lease if anything. I live in Brighton. No.
That wasn't what I was getting. It's just with the
I'm sorry. It was
stuff
a
with the dogs.
lot. It was a lot going on. I was moving. So I'm sorry if I got the addresses mixed up on that one. But I live in Brighton right now.
Go ahead.
I'm confused. So Billerica, Brighton, and I've lived in the Boston area, but you also said Alston earlier.
Alston, Brighton is pretty much the same thing.
Is the apartment, is your location in
02135
Brighton, or because they're different
off Commonwealth
neighborhoods? Which neighborhood are we talking about in Boston? Alston or Brighton?
So when I lived with the dog for the past 2 years, I was living on Commonwealth Ave, that's 02134.
Yep.
Now I live a little bit up more in Brighton, technically 02135.
And in between, at some point, you were in Billerica.
I was staying in Billerica for a little bit.
Okay.
Lots of addresses.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. May I ask one more question?
One more question.
Do you have permission of your landlord to have a dog?
Yeah, I have ESA paperwork for him.
I had one question.
Go ahead.
Look, I don't know if it's for Officer Dragon. You know, we deliberate on this and we come to some sort of ruling. How does our ruling affect the dog status in other towns? Is it just Northfield we're ruling on?
No. Any decision found by this board tonight, or if they choose to deliberate to a following hearing, is valid anywhere in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And there is a specialized list in accordance with the correct Mass General Law of what this select board, who has authority over dogs in this town for dog hearing purposes, on what the fate of the animal can be. And we'll get into that after we close the hearing. Okay, so at this time I'll entertain a motion to close this hearing. So moved.
Second.
Okay, I'll give that to B. So we have a motion from Heath on closing of the hearing and a second from B. Discussion, last words. We'll do a roll call vote on this.
Sarah Kearns, yes.
Pete Cummings, yes.
Bernie Boudreau, yes.
Alex Meisner, yes.
Bijak, yes.
Okay, at this time the dog hearing is closed. We will not entertain any additional testimony. You may have a seat back in our studio gallery at this time. So nothing more from anybody else. The board is now going to be in deliberation in open session as to findings of the fact, and that any findings of fact should be made in a motion form. So, we've dealt with the animal control services of the Franklin County Sheriff's Office many times before, obviously being the first time for you, Sarah, but myself, Heath, and Bee have been through this process a few times. I believe the report in front of me is, it's very disturbing. I find it very disturbing. I find Mr. Kinsella's words, "I don't know," which I heard various amount of time. I didn't keep track, but I heard "I don't know" a few times, and if you know your animal, you should never have an "I don't know" statement. I find that the food issue, for anybody who has to provide care, custody, and control of an animal, I believe should always be entrusted with the responsibility of providing nourishment for it. I find that to be a very disturbing matter, and maybe Bee can elaborate on this a little bit more. That
I think we should go through the facts.
Right. Well, that is a fact.
Right.
So that was stated. So I'm not really sure why that would be a special circumstance for this animal. Doesn't really make any sense to me. Additional facts that I find to be alarming are also that there is an inconsistency of the dog's behavior that has been noted between being violent and multiple wounds and bites that have existed on one of the parties, and also violent behavior on the removal of the animal, which I can sympathize with a little bit. Any dog that is, trying to be captured by a party it doesn't know probably is going to go into fight or flight mode, regardless of the animal's history. Yeah, this is just some serious business here, and
So with our fact finding,
yeah.
let's I guess dig into a few different subjects. Then, let's continue along with you just mentioned 2 instances of violence. What other instances of violence do we have fact finding on with this? What other pieces of information did we gather that we have a violent animal here?
We have videos and a letter from the director of the shelter.
And then we also have facts to base off of, I guess through Ms. Kinsella's cross-examination of the dog owner in regards to issues. I'm blanking a little bit on the questions right now, but the questions were asked about other incidents that may have happened with the animal in the past that Mr. Kinsella pretty much denied to speak on, or was not aware, or didn't have any ability
It
to
wasn't
answer.
his recollection.
Right, it wasn't his
Yeah.
recollection, yeah.
So
Not
her question was the straining at the end of the leash, nipped at friends.
Told her not to go near him. And she inquired after the new roommate's safety. I mean, I think we're not mentioning, or maybe the very most important piece of evidence of a violent dog is the fact that he violently attacked someone recently.
And on that, it's been a while since I've looked at some of this kind of stuff, but I remember the multiple bite being a thing. I mean, it's a different story between an animal being defensive and it just kind of snarls, nips, whatever, but if it goes for a bite, attacks, releases, and goes for more without the triggering event if it were the food. So the food could have been the triggering event, it could have been a nip, and that would be the end of the story, but a multiple bite that resulted in not only her arm being bit, but then a part of her core being bit. The dog went for further attack. So it wasn't just an appendage that was bit, or a hand or a finger, it went after the arm, and then it went after the body.
I don't find Ms. Kinsella to be a violent individual or somebody who is of an intimidating nature.
So I can speak from So in the last 15 years, I've had 30 dogs come through my group. And this is after working for a year at a humane society. So I have dealt with difficult or encountered difficult situations before. I think from a factual standpoint, the biggest concern that I have, because I have never seen, there's usually several behaviors that occur before a bite occurs. And what I'm noting with this case is the severity, the lack of warning, and the severity of the injury. So it's one thing for a dog to growl or nip, indicate in some way that they're not happy with what's going on. There's a number of different behaviors, but to go from simply touching a food container to a full-on bite and hold, not once but twice, is very, very unusual with respect to quote-unquote food issues, and is extreme and severe as far as a reaction. And the other thing that concerns me is that there wasn't any warning. So there's no warning behaviors before, and there's no warning time. And that is repeated in those videos from the shelter. That's my concern as somebody who's worked in rescue and worked with animals for a long time, is the unpredictability and the inconsistent behavior and the lack of warning, and now the evidence of, regardless of what has transpired before, the evidence of a severe, not just one, but 2 bites. And for somebody else, in a different situation, or if the person had fallen, those bites could have resulted in a far more serious situation. It could have been bleeding out. So, or it could have been a smaller individual. I don't even want to contemplate that, but I'm just, from a pure factual standpoint, the lack of time from no warning to full-on bite hold twice, and then seeing unpredictable behavior within the shelter with Deputy Dragon and Director Colucci, who have been working with animals for far longer than I have, and in far more situations than I have. So those are my main concerns, is that bite is so severe, and that's unusual, non-typical behavior for quote-unquote food issues or issues around food bowls.
Guarding.
Yeah, guarding is something everyone deals with in rescue, but not to this full extent. This is highly unusual and atypical.
We actually have another piece of evidence that we haven't discussed,
Sure.
Which is the infection. So an infection, caused by anaerobic bacteria means that it needed to go deep enough into the flesh. And keep in mind that the person who was attacked was taken to the hospital and treated. So the deep bite had to be deep enough into the flesh to cause an infection after the fact, even when it was cleaned by medical professionals. So that's a pretty serious
That's a
bite.
good point to make, yeah. So Andre, I just want to ask a question here on this sheet here, where I have, there's a list of 8 things.
Well, 8's a random number.
Those are just random numbers, okay. So the findings of the fact are then listed on this in
Well,
order.
they'll be put in the final order. So
Okay.
whatever you guys agree upon as a finding of a fact. For example, and I'm making this up because it has nothing to do with this hearing, we determined that the cat fell into the well.
Yeah.
That's a finding of fact.
Yeah.
So you have to think about, in terms of any deliberation, and you do have a sheet that tells you 6 or 7 things that you can conceivably order. What findings of fact would you want to bring forward from all the testimony you heard, including the written testimony, in order to support a conclusion or an order that you feel should stand on its own? And for example, some of these can be multiple. You can say we would like the dog to be microchipped and the dog needs to be neutered and the dog needs, so you can do multiple of these as your conclusions and your order. But you would really want to make sure that any conclusions or order that you come to are supported by at least some of the facts that you all decide and agree on as a motion.
Well, then we should, if we could all agree on the fact that this dog is unpredictable and that severe bites did take place on Miss Kinsella's arm and breast, and that she was taken to the hospital and was treated for infection, as Sarah noted. Can we also find findings of the fact that there has been an immense amount of miscommunication on the care, custody, and control of this animal?
Vote on individual facts. Like,
You
for
wanna
example, if you want to say we are going to agree as a fact that there were severe bites that required hospital treatment, that's a fact. Do I have a motion that so that
Okay.
because
So-
otherwise you're going to end
okay.
up with a
Repeated
stream.
hospital treatment.
Sure. All right. So we'll start. Let me go again then, and we'll start with the first one I mentioned.
Can I
Yeah.
have
Go
some
ahead.
concerns before we?
Yeah.
Yeah, my concern is where if the dog has never really been that unpredictable before, that this, given the severity of the bites, that this could start a pattern. I mean, we're lucky it wasn't a young child.
Oh,
I mean, just, that's another concern, and, I don't know what this dog was like before, but from what we've heard from testimony, the unpredictability and the severity of the wounds really concern me and bother me. That's all.
I think we've heard testimony that there's a pattern of some sort of an unpredictable or aggressive behavior just from the things that the owner has said and from things that Ms. Kinsella said as well about straining at the leash, nipping at friends. There's obviously a pattern of behavior that even if you say the dog's name while it's eating, it will growl and react. And I've seen that in dogs before where they're so defensive. If you even get up and walk near them or say their name while they're eating, they will react. So I can kind of picture what that's like. So we obviously do have some sort of pattern of behavior prior to all this. It may not have been as severe as a bite, we don't know, but there's obviously indications that there is something aggressive.
An issue with the
Nature.
food bowls.
And that the owner had previous knowledge. That's been clear from the quotes, protective of his food, protective of us. In the quotes that were given to the officer, the owner had previous knowledge of food and personal aggression. That's the previous knowledge is an issue.
And that previous knowledge is a big deal, Sarah, because I'm concerned of the fact that this dog was left with somebody knowing this type of knowledge. That's very concerning. I mean, food. We all need food to survive. Anybody, like I said earlier, who has been given the responsibility of this said animal, shouldn't have to worry about feeding it.
I got a quote on here that I wrote down: food aggression from the start.
Food aggression.
And that was not a good situation that it was in.
Okay. So just in taking minutes, and you guys can word them however you want, our notes, you agree that there were severe bites, treated and requiring continuing treatment.
Requiring repeated medical treatment.
Infection.
There was unpredictable behavior or a pattern of unpredictable behavior.
Yes.
And then issue with food, protective of food, food aggression. So those are the three that I've taken so far. You could word
He's
them
pointed
however.
out that it was a repeated attack, it wasn't a single bite, and B pointed out that these were unusually severe in her experience.
It was a bite and grab twice.
Yeah.
It's one thing to bite and let go. It's another
Or
thing
to-
bite
Yeah,
and
but we're up
hold.
here and up here.
I've been bit before, but if you bite and hold, it's a different kind of bite than a bite and release. So a
Yes.
bite and hold enough to clamp down on an arm and then release and then go after another part of the body and bite and hold so that there are bite marks. I'm just stating factually, it's a bite and hold, then release, not a bite and let go immediately and okay, I'm sorry, I did it. It's a bite and hold and then a bite to the chest. So this is also at the other thing that concerns me is that the injuries are from somebody who's standing. This is up. I don't know how tall the dog is, but that means the dog has to come up, forward, and in. But for the record, the 2 bites are bite and hold, and there's 2 of them with bite marks.
And stitches on both.
Correct. That is a different kind of bite than just nipping somebody or biting and releasing, which I have seen. But biting and holding and going down into the flesh is a different kind of bite.
Right.
Keith.
Would it be appropriate to ask Deputy Dragon a brief point of reference on a bite scale or just if they are familiar with this, because then I can reference the different levels that I'm reading on this thing here, just if they're familiar with a certain scale.
I don't think we have to be really careful about how
I
we
would say
proceed.
no, just because we have to be.
It's enough, and we're not professionals, so
Right.
it's enough. I'm just saying,
I just want to
and
reference these levels that I'm reading
I know,
on here,
but
and I want to know if they're relevant to what they know professionally in this.
What's relevant is it's a bite and hold, and a bite that went deep enough into the flesh. It's not just it's a bite and hold, clamp on, bite and hold, clamp on, enough that you have teeth marks, right? Sutures, yes, but actual physical evidence, talking about facts, physical evidence of the bite marks on the person. So that way there's no way of saying, okay, the dog did this, that, or the other thing. The dog actually bit enough to leave bite marks.
So
Right.
what I'll reference then is what I'm seeing, and it's been so long since I've seen this stuff. This is called Dunbar's scale, dog bite scale, and it's from the Association of Professional Dog Trainers. So level 1 and level 2 comprise of the majority of the dog bites, and 99% of them. Level 1 is obnoxious or aggressive behavior, but no skin contact by teeth. Level 2 would be skin contact by the teeth, but no skin punctured. A 3 would be 1 to 4 punctures from a single bite with no puncture deeper than half the length of the dog's canine. A level 4, which this seems like it would be, or maybe a level 5, a level 4 would be 1 to 4 punctures of a single bite with at least 1 puncture deeper than half the length of the dog's canine teeth. Level 5 would be multiple bite incident with at least 2 level 4 bites, or multiple attack incident with at least 1 level 4 bite in each.
Okay.
And a level 6 is the highest, victim dead.
All right.
So I would say this would be a level 5 from reading, because it's a multiple bite incident.
Okay.
That's helpful.
On this scale, whatever that
It's
means.
helpful, but fact of the matter is nobody wants to be bit that severely, and nobody in another town wants to be bit that severely, especially a child or somebody who fell or and to Bernie's point, it's almost immaterial what happened before, because the pattern might have been so slight or it was underestimated. Now we have a new pattern established, which is a severe immediate reaction, and then that is also factually witnessed by the shelter reactions to the delivery of food to other dogs around this dog. So there's one video where the dog is normal, happy, wagging the tail, and then there's the food bowl near the cage and went into full-on barking and going at the door, and the same thing with just filling up the water bucket. So regardless of what happened before, this pattern right now is very disturbing, very, very extreme, and I'm going to say atypical. Yeah, and the fact that it can't be predicted and this occurred is really...
Okay, so at this, yeah.
And based on personal knowledge, a dog that bites, even if you put them in extraordinarily expensive residential training by people who know what they're doing, it almost never works. The record is very, very low for having it change.
Okay. I want to just, so after we are done with our deliberations, I have to move forward here with the script to where we motion and vote each finding.
Okay.
And I just want to make sure that it's very clear and concise by law here that we motion and vote on each finding as a select board.
Okay.
And I'll just keep going through them and you guys edit them or add them. So
Right.
I have, through this incident, it's demonstrated finding of fact, severe bites, treated and continuing treatment based on the attack.
Mhm.
Through this incident and on video and testimony, unpredictable behavior, in fact, a pattern possibly of unpredictable behavior. In testimony and the issue of food, protective food, food aggression,
Previous knowledge.
yeah, through the testimony, yeah, so previous.
But my point is that
Yeah,
through the testimony, the owner had previous knowledge of this.
okay. Through this matter, this incident, bite plus hold on a standing person, repeated attacks, 2 bites, minimum
Yep.
at least.
Okay.
So I've got those 4.
Okay.
Any other findings of fact? And I was putting in how you guys can discuss how you.
Did you mention the shelter behavior?
That would probably be the video and the testimony
Oh, okay.
on the
Oh, that's
unpredictable
under
behavior and
testimony.
patrimony.
Oh, okay.
But it was also in the video, this incident, and testimony. All 3 of those would speak to the
I
unpredictable
might change
behavior.
ongoing to repeated because I think it's really relevant that they had medical treatment and the folks said you're good and then it turned out that there was a further treatment necessary, relatively severe.
And hospitalization.
Monday through
Yes.
Thursday hospitalization.
Repeated. Sounds good. If we are all set with those facts, I will move forward.
We're going to have to vote.
We have to motion and vote
Right, but
each
I have to
one.
read this first according to this, and then we
Yeah.
vote on each one.
So, yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. The Select Board held a public hearing on Tuesday, September 19th, 2023 at 69 Main Street, Northfield, Massachusetts, at 7:30 p.m. with respect to a complaint brought against you as the owner or keeper of a white and tan / solid pit bull terrier mix named Rio at 164 Upper Farms Road, Northfield, Massachusetts. The board heard testimony from the complainant, Patricia Kinsella, Kyle Dragon, animal control officer, as well as testimony from defendant Raphael Kinsella and
Yeah, we need to.
his co-defendant. Of your name again, please.
Ariana Burke.
Ariana Burke. Following the close of the presentation of all the facts and information by the
you got
complainant and the defendant, the Select Board will vote the findings of the fact. So, fact number 1.
That this incident demonstrates severe bites, treatment, continuing treatment through hospitalization.
Do I have a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on the first fact and
I'd
finding.
like for it to say repeated because I think that's relevant. You said continuing.
You could say repeated.
Okay.
That's however you want to phrase it.
Okay.
Do we have to
Repeated
read
treatment.
that as part of the motion?
Well, that will be the motion for that finding of
Oh,
fact.
okay.
Do
Okay.
we want to add the infection or is that, do we think that's covered? I mean, I think it's relevant, but I don't know in the finding of facts. I know we want to be pretty succinct.
An infection occurred, I'd say that's finding of fact.
Okay.
Through this incident, severe bites treated with repeated treatment for ongoing infections through hospitalization.
Okay. So the motion and the second was made. Discussion, which we are in. All in favor of this first finding of fact?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous finding on the first finding of fact. Finding of fact number 2.
Through this incident, video at the shelter and testimony from multiple parties, that there is a pattern, a demonstrable pattern of unpredictable behavior.
I'd like to say violent, unpredictable behavior.
It's all up to you.
Okay. Violent and unpredictable behavior changed. Okay. I'll entertain a motion on this finding in fact.
So moved.
Motion from Heath.
Second.
I have a second from Bernie. Discussion on this? We'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous passing for the second finding of fact. Third,
Through testimony and previous knowledge that the dog has, is protective of food, has issues with food, and food aggression.
Can you reread that? I'm sorry.
Through
Testimony?
testimony, previous knowledge, the dog has issues with food, is protective of food, and has food aggression.
I'll entertain a motion for that.
Just
Okay.
thinking through the wording.
Okay.
Yeah, you can change it. I'm
We
just-
can, during discussion, I was just.
Yeah. Anybody want to? Well, make it-
I'll do a motion for that. I'll make a motion for that finding of fact.
Second.
motion by Sarah, second by Heath. Discussion.
Yes. I wonder if it's necessary to say that the owner had previous knowledge. I think it's a relevant kind of legal point.
Previous knowledge by the owner.
Yes.
Can
Can you add that?
Okay.
Well, everything is, we have the umbrella of through testimony of
Right.
all who participated.
Right.
So
Okay, we're in further discussion still. If we're good, I'm going to take a vote on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous passing on the third finding of fact. Fourth.
Demonstrated through this matter, or this issue, bite and hold on a standing person, repeated attack with 2 bites.
So a repeated severe bite and hold.
Sir, however you want to
Yeah.
word it.
I'll make a motion.
I would
Call
just
it a
add,
repeated severe bite and hold.
Just a second.
just, I would add that the skin was punctured.
Mm-hmm.
So bite,
And hold with deep punctures.
bite with punctured skin and hold.
Deep bite, punctured skin.
Or as a result was,
Right. and
skin
hold.
was punctured.
And, you wanted to make a point that it was on a standing person and it was repeated, so there were 2
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to
bites.
get language in there that it was a bite on the appendage and then a secondary bite in the core of the body. Because if I were in
Because-
another,
Because the person touched the food container.
Okay, so bite, serious bite, and hold, puncturing the skin when
To both appendage and body.
to core of body on a standing person who touched a food container,
Not the bowls.
on the food container, representing 2 bites, a repeated attack.
Correct.
Okay.
That's a
Um,
mouthful.
If we're satisfied with that, I'll entertain a motion on finding of facts number 4.
so moved.
Motion from Heath,
Second.
second from B. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous passing on finding of fact number 4.
And anything else?
We want to put that it was unprovoked. Based on testimony, nobody asserted that it was provoked. There was no teasing of the animal. Those are all important points.
That said, attack was unprovoked.
It's based on testimony.
Correct. And
Yep.
yep.
Based on testimony, the
And
attack was
reports.
unprovoked. Okay, we have that. I'll entertain a motion on that.
So moved.
So moved.
All right, I'll give that to B.
And I'll second.
And Sarah will second that. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to take
Well,
a
this is on the motion, right?
Yeah, we're on the.
Oh.
Yeah,
On the unprovoked
on
attacks.
editing.
we're on number 5, unprovoked attack.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
I wanted to just look at the letter from Director Colucci to see if I can find it. Oh, here it is. I got it. Well, on other incidents, he will charge at the front of his door, leap up and bark and growl.
You might want to do a finding on shelter behavior.
Yeah, a
Independent.
separate finding or
Then
add
they
to
would.
it?
Well,
Okay.
Because it's
Also,
not
I mean-
related to the attack.
they were it was determined by the policy of the shelter that this was a dangerous dog.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a fact-based finding.
Yeah, so is that, you're saying that would be a separate finding?
Yeah, because you're talking about the attack.
Yeah,
in
we
this
should
one.
do a separate one on the shelter information.
Okay.
The
so-
characterization of the dog, the shelter, based on the information
Oh, you
from.
have to finish this
we
one.
want to vote on finding.
Oh, sorry,
facts.
go ahead.
Want to
Sorry.
close this, whatever.
Okay, sorry, we're on
So,
to the,
yeah,
I'm
we're
on
in
to the
for this
next one.
discussion. Just recite number 5 one
So
more time,
based
please.
on testimony, the attack was unprovoked.
All right. I'll take a vote at this time for that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous passing for fact and finding number 5. Number 6.
Okay, number 6 would be based on the testimony of Deputy Dragon, as well as the letter from Director Colucci describing the dog as unpredictable, and with evidence of incidences where the dog has charged at the front of his door, leapt up, barked, and growled. Further noting, I don't know if that needs to be a factual finding, that the shelter policy for dogs with erratic behavior and or a bite incident is that no one handles said dogs.
That sounds factual to me.
Is this awful lot like number 2?
In testimony, he said that it was classified as a dangerous dog. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's a.
That's on the report.
So based on testimony by the animal control officer and a report by Director Colucci, the shelter behaviors of, and then you have
Indicate
right,
unpredictability,
unpredictability,
and as a result, no, not as a result.
and the dog's behavior, or shelter behaviors of unpredictability and leaping, barking, growling, and shelter's classification as a dangerous dog.
Right, so I would start with
Shelter's classification as a dangerous dog.
correct, the shelter's
Based on-
classification.
Based on the testimony of ACO, report by the Director Colucci, observing shelter behaviors as unpredictable, leaping, barking, growling.
Yes,
Okay.
erratic and unpredictable.
And when that's finalized,
Reread.
yeah.
Sounds a lot like number 2, really.
Some of it.
Okay.
But you are getting in there the shelter's dangerous dog designation.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on this fact and finding, which is number 6, right?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from B, second from Sarah. Any last words, discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous passing for fact and finding number 6. Is there any additional that we'd like to find at this time before we move on to the fate of the animal?
I think one of the other main things to note would be that there was extreme difficulty in gaining control of the animal. That happened through.
Oh, the police report? I mean,
So-
the ACO
ACO
report.
Yeah, I
And
mean, it
police.
took him 10 minutes of a professional trained in this to gain control of the animal in an
3
enclosed
hours after
area.
the fact.
3 hours after the attack.
Correct,
Good
yeah.
point. But
Yeah.
just the
Yes.
size of the animal, and it took professionals 10 minutes to gain control of this animal. So I think that's important fact finding to have, because how is
Yes.
that going to be
He
perceived
couldn't
as
enter
a
the premises.
yeah.
Right.
Good point, Heath. Get that written down, Andrea.
ACO and police reports. Stated control of animal
A
at
catch
scene.
pole was needed
required.
in order to extract the dog.
Required I don't know if they're extreme measures, serious, something measures for
Well, the facts are
safety measures by a professional.
for
Okay.
over
the facts are it took at least 10 minutes,
or right
and a catch pole
approximately 10 minutes
was used
And it
and
was-
involved the assistance of 2 police officers
Yeah.
plus the ACO.
and it was 3 hours after the incident.
3
Right.
hours after the incident.
And we'll read it one more time before
Yeah,
taking a
and
motion
get all
for
of the
it.
pieces in there. ACO and 2 officers. So ACO and police reports stated control of animal at scene required catch pole for approximate catch pole
And 3 personnel.
right catch pole for approximately 10 minutes use with ACO and 2 officers.
Correct.
3 hours after the incident. Use of a
Approximately
catch
3
pole
hours,
required
yeah.
use of catch pole
Could not
for
safely
approximately
enter the
10 minutes.
premises.
Sorry, what?
Could not.
Perhaps the entrance to that would be could not safely enter the premises. Restraint of the dog required.
The dog was barking loudly, showing its teeth, snarling and growling while jumping on the window. This is at
So ACO
7:30.
police reports.
Go ahead, Andrea.
In the ACO and police reports, ACO could not enter premises to restrain the dog due to dog's behavior
Upon
in
approach.
order, in order to control the animal at the scene, and it required the use of catch pole and for approximately 10 minutes by the ACO and 2 officers,
With the assistance of 2 officers.
3 hours after the incident.
Approximately 3 hours.
Because he was attacking a pole.
This was actually, yeah,
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on that finding of fact, number 7.
so moved.
Second.
Motion by B, second by Heath on the 7th one here. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any additional ones at this time before we move onwards? I think we've covered pretty much everything at this point.
Yeah, we could just sit for a minute and make sure nothing else comes up.
Okay. So I have a list here of everything that involves what we can
Oh.
do. And I'll move on with that list. I don't really think it's completely necessary for me to read each one, but I will just state that there's a lot of stuff that we can do involving being humanely restrained, being confined to a certain property or premises. I know in the past we've done things with insurance or having to see infrastructure enhancements to where the dog is being confined to, muzzle restraints, $100,000 insuring the owner or keeper against any loss, damage, control, or injury to people. So finding an insurance company that will insure the dog. We can also do other things from to provide the dog, the licensing authority or animal control officer information by which the dog may be identified through its lifetime, including photos, videos, examinations, tattooing, microchip implantations, a combination thereof, and then lastly, humanly euthanizing the animal. So,
Actually, the one above that is having the animal
altered,
yeah.
right? Because of a medical condition, the owner or keeper of the dog shall cause the dog to be altered so that the dog shall not be reproductively intact through neutering. And then lastly, like I said, humanely euthanizing the animal.
Or, yeah.
I believe we have enough here to determine a humane euthanization of this animal. I believe the facts found are that of a disturbing nature and one where I don't think there is any reasonable alternative in moving forward in any other direction. And that's my opinion.
And make sure you let him know what his rights are.
Right.
Yeah, you have to do that after you.
Yeah,
If
we'll
we-
do
if
that
we-
after.
yeah, after, okay.
Whatever outcome.
Whatever outcome
Yeah.
exists, there
We'll
will
have to
be
do
a final statement that I'll read in regards to.
Okay, I'll make a statement too. I found it very disturbing, and in good conscience, other than having the dog euthanized, I can't. If something happened to somebody else, I would feel responsible if I didn't err on the side of caution.
Right.
I just, I feel bad about it, but it's the right thing for me to. I think the right thing to do, and the safety. I just worry that this was a young kid, or if it does, it may be fine for a year. I don't know. I'm not. It's too unpredictable for me. So, my opinion is I'd like to see the dog euthanized.
Heath?
So, in kind of reviewing some of this, which looks familiar to me from years back, there's exercises that can be done in lower levels of bites, bite inhibition training and all that. This dog didn't exhibit any sort of bite inhibition. It bit, clamped, shook, and held on, and then went for a second bite. So looking at just sort of like the recommendations within just what I'm reading here, based on what we saw, or based on the testimony that we're getting on what happened versus the courses of action that are taken, if it were a level 4, which I don't think this even qualifies on this scale, I think it was a 5, it recommends at level 5 and 6 that the dog is extremely dangerous and mutilates, the dog is simply not safe around people, and then it recommends euthanasia because the quality of life is so poor for dogs that it has to live out its life in solitary confinement. Because basically everything else lower than that requires muzzling, training, insurance, can only go outside to be transported to the veterinarian, just so many restrictions. So I mean, I can leave that there. As far as deciding whether or not to euthanize, that is not a decision I would be able to make tonight. That is something I would have to decide to take the life of an animal or anything. That's not something I would be able to decide on tonight.
Sarah?
I think that the unpredictability and the severity of, I apologize.
It's okay.
I think that the issues are the unpredictability and the severity, and that I don't see a way around euthanasia. I believe that is what is reasonable to do as people who are responsible for making this decision.
See?
So as I mentioned earlier, I've had over 30 dogs come through my home over the last 15 years. And I worked for a year at the Humane Society where, as a VP, I did have to sign euthanasia orders. But I have never seen this level of dog behavior before over food. And I am concerned about the severity, the unpredictability, and the rapid escalation of the dog behavior at not only present time, but going forward. I believe the real concern is danger and liability going forward into the future. So I think we have a responsibility to carry out a euthanasia order, unfortunately and regretfully.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I motion.
You have an order?
It's an, you have to follow the.
Oh, follow the order.
Okay.
Okay.
I would motion that.
Okay. Want to just read
Yeah, I
this
was
from?
gonna do it. I was gonna
Yeah.
say.
Read this right here.
Yep. I motion that it is hereby ordered that the dog Rio remain in custody and control of the Franklin County Regional Animal Control, Franklin County Sheriff's Office to be euthanized pending his, Raphael's right.
No,
No, that's the order.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the
Okay.
vote, and I'll read the,
Right to appeal any decision.
right, and we'll get to that, excuse me.
Yeah.
They'll let you know.
That's
We'll let
the
you know.
motion.
Okay, that's the motion.
Okay, that's the motion.
Second,
We have a motion from Bernie and a second from B.
correct.
Any last further discussion? And after the motion has been voted on, I'll read the final bit of order here. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Aye.
So we have 4 ayes moving through a euthanasia motion, and then 1 abstain from Keith. Mr. Kinsella, you have the right within 10 days of the Select Board's order to bring a petition in the district court within the judicial district of which the dog is kept, that would be Franklin County, addressed to the justice of the court, praying that the order may be reviewed by the court or magistrate thereof, and after such notice to the officer or officers involved as the magistrate deems necessary. The magistrate shall review such action, hear the witnesses, and affirm such order unless it shall appear that it was made without proper cause or in bad faith, in which case such order shall be reversed. You or any party shall have the right to request a de novo hearing on the petition before a justice of the court. The decision of the court shall be final and conclusive upon the parties. Do you understand the rights that you've just been given?
Can I get a copy of that in writing?
You will be prescribed all the necessary paperwork. That concludes this agenda item at this time. And we will move on with our meeting in a moment.
I move to adjourn for tonight. Can we conclude the rest?
Okay.
Second.
The only thing we had left,
Yeah.
we
I don't
have the
think
candidates for emergency services, too late.
I'm not doing it.
I just have one thing I have to say because it's your next meeting and we have to post this week. So if you want to do future agenda items for just that topic,
We can.
for the 26th.
Everything that we didn't get to tonight should go on the next agenda.
Well, you're going to meet on the 26th, so I have to post at the end of this week. That's your goal
Andre-
setting.
Andrea, we will meet sometime this week and
Okay.
we'll square it away. I'll meet
Okay.
with you. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion to adjourn by anybody?
I already did that.
Yeah, it's second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.